Welcome back, everyone. Giant Slayer series it returns. Here we are for season 2. Doa and Frodan back with you. The TFT world has changed. We know we've got a mid-set patch incoming, but we've seen a lot of changes in the game itself as it is now since our last tournament. But we've got a ton of stuff to look forward to with this one. 8 players from North America, 8 players from Europe, and the qualifiers were grueling. Casted those with X Scoundrel, but we've got a good pack to look forward to for season 2, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. We are back with another season of Giant Slayer with some of the best grinders and sweaters in Teamfight tactics. Really
Yeah.
excited to see how it's going to transition from week to week as well, because not only are we closing out the first half of Teamfight Tactics Galaxy set, we're also ushering in the mid-set expansion as you were talking about. And a lot of people are, playing that PBE server right now and
Yeah.
getting a bunch of games under the belt. But at the same time, we still had a patch that came out just recently last week.
Right. And it didn't make any sort of like huge changes, but every little adjustment seems to kind of shift the power in different comps. Obviously, we're seeing Rebels be very strong. We're seeing Kale be very strong as usual, but we're seeing a lot of other stuff too. I think one of the hallmarks of TFT right now is that there's just a lot of variety in terms of what people can go for. Mech is much weaker than it was before as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what we see in our 4 lobbies today. But first and foremost, big thanks to juke.gg for sponsoring Giant Slayer series. If you type !GSS in chat, you can find a link to go to their landing page that has all the player point of views. So, here on the mainstream, we'll keep an eye on the storylines. We'll see what different people are building. You'll get that analysis. But if you really want to focus in on what one player is going, if they're going for a comp that you like to play on ladder and you want to know a little bit more about it, definitely go to the Juke page to check that out. And also just check out Juke.gg because they have pretty much all the esports. So after this is over, you can find a lot more fun stuff to watch too. It's going to be sick. But let's take a look at our format for Giant Slayer series this season. It is pretty familiar if you watch Giant Slayer series season 1, where we do have 3 weeks of competition and then the finals as well. A lot of group play going on. Something a little bit different this time around is that there is more of a points drop off between 4th and 5th. So there's a higher priority on getting that top 4, and of course, a little bump for first place as well.
Yep, we always want to try to make a separation of small objectives that people can play for. It's not just always about getting first place.
Right.
Sometimes getting that top 4 can feel just as good if you were feeling like you were destined for 6th or 7th place instead. And after a few weeks, we're just
Yeah.
going to have that finals, and that's just going to be on that first patch for that PBE, aka the mid set expansion. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun month of TFT.
It's going to be a crazy month of TFT. It's almost like having a new set come out. Not quite that abrupt, but major changes. But it should be fun. I like our new scoring. I like our new scoring sort of method. I think it's going to be a little bit more exciting, favoring the players that are more consistent more than anything. Let's take a look at the prize pool though for Giant Slayer series season 2. Look what these players are fighting for. Obviously, it is the status. It is the honor of taking first place. $1,000 for getting that comes along with it as well. But you get a little bit for just showing up. And credit to Giant Slayer series for doing everything they can to just push the TFT competitive scene forward each time a little bit more for the prize pool this time around, and just trying to do what we can to make sure that the players that want to be pro players can focus on that.
That's right. You gotta share the Giant Slayer streams, everybody. Go on
Yeah.
Twitter, go on Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, some people are still using some of the other social media, whatever platform that you're on right now. Share it on Giant Slayer stream because they're doing so much to try to keep the competitive scene going until we officially get some kind of championship. And in the meantime, this is pretty much the only series
Yeah.
that the West has right now. There's a couple of tournaments going on in the East, I think, but not a lot of access for the passionate fan base that's in the Americas and Europe.
Yeah, for sure. The tournament scene has been pretty sparse. So shout out to Giant Slayer for bringing us the biggest competition between North America and EU. And yeah, if you like competitive TFT and you're not telling your friends about this, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know if we can be friends anymore. I know it hurts. I know it's hard to hear. I just got
That's
to be
right.
honest.
That's
Let's take
right.
a look at our player standings so far. And this kind of shows us everybody that is in the tournament right now. And you may notice some notable names missing that either did not qualify or wanted to focus a little bit more on the ladder in the month of June. But That said, we have some awesome players here, including one that jumps out to me right away is a DarkHydra, who you might recognize as well, Frodan, from StarCraft 2 way back in the day. I believe he was a German player, very, very good Terran player. And here he is trying to make waves in TFT as well.
Oh yeah, Dark Hydra, competitor that goes back many years playing things like StarCraft 2. I think
Yep.
when I first saw him is when he joined Team Acer
Oh,
back
man.
in the
Yeah.
day. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I remember that he also had switched to Terran, which was funny. But
Yes. His name is DarkHydra, but he was more known for Terran play, which is bizarre, but we'll give him that.
right, right. I mean, it was kind of the thing because he was switching races, but overall,
Yeah.
definitely a high level player in competitive gaming, and so he is a player definitely to pay attention to. We've casted a tournament with him in the past, and we'll see if he's able to, uh, you know, improve on his performance from the other TFT tournament that we're able to cast. A couple of other
Yeah.
players that people want to probably pay attention to is some of the NA stars who are really rising up. Kiyun has dominated the ladder rankings in the past week ever since Mismatch Stocks kind of took that rank 1 and rank 2 spot. Keyon's the one really holding that 1 and 2 spot. Not simultaneously, but he's been
They're
pretty
fighting
much
for it.
ruling the king of the server.
Yeah, kiting is hard has been at the top of the ladder for a long time. Crowan as well from Cloud9, another competitor there. And right now, the ladder is very volatile. I mean, we saw players like Polt, who was unfortunately not able to qualify, but still a big threat on the ladder, kind of move up and move down depending on the daily meta. And that's one of the things I really love about TFT as we look at today's schedule and tomorrow's schedule as well, is that you do see it change almost on a daily basis. But let's actually take a moment and talk about who's going to be in our lobby today. It's going to be Nature's, Agon, Inay, Sphinx, Sunny Lu, Crvor, DarkHydra, and Higa. So a good mix of NA and EU there. And I'm excited about seeing Inay as well, talking about players that have been traditionally very high on the ladder. That's a player a lot of people have been watching for a long time, but we haven't seen a lot in tournaments. So great to see him in Giant Slayer series.
Yeah, and I think that overall, this list of talent, like the thing is, people look at this and say, "Where is my favorite player X?" That's not included on this list, and you have to
Right.
understand that they were playing the qualifiers, and they're not going to be able to hit every single time, especially against a talent pool this deep. All these players have hit top challenger being like in that 20 to 10 range. We're not even talking about like top 50. All these players are
Right.
deep threats to go all the way into the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Another look at the players in our lobby today. So we will actually get to see Dark Hydra right away today in this lobby. Crvor as well. I'm really interested to watch him. He actually qualified by playing just mech. And part of the reason for that is that he said that, he was a little bit uncomfortable in the patch, and mech was something that he knew, and he knew you could force a little bit easier than some other ones. And he was able to do it really well, actually. So curious to see if he's going to stick with that. I would imagine we're going to see more variety from everybody in this tournament, but going to be watching Crvor for sure. And we did also find out recently that it's not Crvor or Servor like we've been saying forever, but it's actually Crvor. The V is actually like a Latin U apparently, and it's Latin for blood.
Yeah, I think that the Europe players have long been underrepresented in some of these Giant Slayer events, only because I think of the time zone. To be quite candid, like we've been
Yeah,
playing Giant
both.
Slayer late at night in Americas. That's like 3, 4 in the morning. Pretty unreasonable to ask the top Europe players to get involved. So it's only natural that for season 2 we go bigger and wider in terms of that net. And unsurprisingly, the Europe players also did fairly well. Crvor also appeared on your show, Doa, as well as a few other
Yeah.
Europe players that's going to be on deck. So, I think no one really questions the credibility of whether or not these players deserve to be here. It's more about can they beat some of NA's best talent because, we did have a lot of NA domination in the previous season.
Well, on that note, Gunmay actually, who is the highest ranking player from Giant Series season 1 to come back for season 2, is in fact from Sweden. So we had a little bit of European representation, but you are right that finally, with the time shift, doing it a little bit more in the midday here in America, we can get some of the players from Europe and get that level of competition. I mean, you go back at it, years and years in League of Legends, it's always NA greater than EU, EU greater than NA. I mean, we all know Korea was better than all of them, but still, the NAEU rivalry was fun anyway, right? We gave.
All right, all right, all right. right. I hear you. You don't need to necessarily rub it in faces. I think the
I'm just talking
championship
League of
trophies
Legends.
speak
That's
for
all,
themselves, though.
and StarCraft too, and Overwatch.
Yes.
It's pretty
Pretty
much
much
everything.
any game that Korea set their mind to, they've been killing it. And I
Yeah.
think that it's going to be interesting because there seems to be several regions that are, rising above the others in TFT. But at the same time, the top talent in each region is more than capable of taking it down. So,
Yeah, I'm curious as well. Dan has apparently frozen for the moment, but
yes.
I'll follow up on a statement. Oh, are you back? Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Is my internet
it
crapping
may
out? It
be.
totally is.
Oh no. Well, let me
Oh
talk for a moment
no.
there. I can talk about Korean esports all day, but you don't have to worry about that because we're jumping in with Inay taking his view as we get the first lobby started. And it is a trade sector as well. So,
All
or no,
right.
I'm sorry, it's a treasure trove actually. So we're starting things off with a special galaxy, gonna be neat. Pretty
Love it.
normal items to begin things with, but we will see what Inay's up to. Found the Zaya with the bow. All right, so on Treasure Trove, that's certainly something you can build off of. But the bow is just a good item in general right now. Speaking of Korean, Korean Jin, otherwise known as Jin Boom, is a comp that's been rising in popularity. That uses bows pretty frequently too, because you need the runins to go with the Death Blade. So there's a lot to actually use here out of this, or build out of this rather.
Yeah, I think that people look at the overall comp sheets, right? The one that Rainbash puts out and a few others that they put out guides and say, oh, has 10.11 actually changed anything? And what I feel like it has done is it's offered you a couple of more options. And I think one of the more important item combinations that people have been focusing on lately is Deathblade and Runin's Hurricane. That seems to
Yeah,
be a really important package that can actually go in several different carry compositions that relies upon tack damage. I've even seen people say, you know what, forget putting red buff on Jinx. I'm just gonna transfer these Deathblade Runin's Hurricane from one build and put it on Jinx directly, and then
yeah,
just put red buff on someone else and then play Brawler Blasters or Rebels, whatever they want. And I think it's a very flexible set. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Treasure Trove is also, considered by many to be their favorite galaxy because you're given so many options. Right away, you can see, for example,
wow,
Inay not saving any of his units on his bench, pretty much just only keeping that Jace and
that's
going for
huge
Higa.
though. Look at that. He found the Jace early on, and he got 10 gold. This is just like a dream start, no matter what galaxy it is. And you see this more often in Treasure Trove for sure. But man, I would be pretty psyched about the early game if I had Space Pirate and a Graves 2 and a Jace already.
There's still some variants that you have to weather, and I think Ine is adapting well to it, which is he's getting his gold front loaded and his items back loaded, so he's going to
Yeah.
capitalize. And right away, we see a double bow sword, and I know Ine is a massive fan of KO compositions for almost this entire set so far. I wonder if he's going to start leaning towards that, but for now, he does have the pirate opening, and he's going to be leaning towards kind of ramp up his gold early.
Yeah, good start for Inay as well. I like that you backline everything with this. This is something I've been doing a lot more in my own early game, and it just seems like when you backline stuff, up to like 4 units is where it works best. Your units do a much better job of focusing the same target, just because they're all walking across. And if your opponent puts a couple forward, a couple back, that kind of staggers it. And so
Mhm.
this formation early game, I've had great results with. So no surprise seeing him stack things mostly towards the back there too.
Yeah, and there's lots of different early game positioning that's starting to become more popularized ever since Mismatch Socks kind of put out that video where he's coaching other people, or even just kind of going on to the Giant Slayer podcast and talking about it. The
Yeah.
most important thing is just to try to maximize the amount of units that you kill early, and a lot of times backlining is protecting yourself against infiltrators and blitzcrank while simultaneously splitting the aggression, and that's kind of the key positioning of what Ine is trying to do. That being
Right.
said, on a galaxy like Treasure Trove, everyone's very strong, or at least should be strong, because they're getting a bunch of items, a bunch of gold, so they should be able to piece together some kind of reasonable composition. So, despite the fact that Ine has an early game start, he actually doesn't seem particularly very powerful. And another thing I want to
No.
observe is that he went up against Higa, and Higa also has the early Shojin, which has also become popular because for a while people were kind of saying Shojin wasn't worth building early.
Yeah, it's finding more and more use right now. I didn't happen to see who he had it on, but things like a Darius or a Jace or really any, a high damage ability, generally AD champ can put good use on that. So yeah, I think it's been an underrated item for a while. Did you see who he had it on?
Yeah, you had it on Graves, which makes
Oh,
sense
okay.
because
Yeah.
in these early game skirmishes, when you have people who might be prioritizing damage carries like Kha'Zix, Caitlyn, Zaya, even some
Right.
people who itemize say Fiora early on, does Graves will be targeting those people who have the highest attack speed. So
Mm.
having him with Shojins is surprisingly good because it kind of like keeps one person on the team permanently disabled because people really just cast their abilities very infrequently in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, even though Graves' ability does keep getting nerfed every patch, it seems like it's still really strong early, and as you
Right.
grow him in star level, it continues to be strong throughout the entire game. A lot of people saying Graves is
Uh-oh.
one of the one cost unit that lasts, but yeah, it's a bit of an awkward start now for
Yeah.
Inay, but he's at least got a decent amount of gold. And he's still got over 90 HP. So it's, he's lost some rounds, but it could have been much worse.
Hmm. This looks like to me he's intentionally trying to lose this round because he's already lost the first two.
Might as
And
well.
while he obviously would like to lose as little as possible, he also kind of wants to guarantee that he's going to lose. So he puts his poppy in the front just to kind of like die and then give himself slightly worse odds.
Sure.
If you ask the challenger players, it actually makes a really big difference to just put one unit slightly off position because then your army becomes weaker. But he's also playing against Crvor, who also has a weak army too. But you
Oh
know
no,
what? If
he's
you're Inay,
accidentally winning.
you've
Oh, the
collected
lost streak.
3 gold, and it's okay, right? The whole idea of loss streaking is that you're gonna try to ramp up your gold, but he's getting
Yeah.
gold anyways.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Space Pirates is such a nice band-aid to like any state your early game is in, because at least you can count on
Right.
hopefully getting a couple of extra gold here and there. So what's he gonna pick? Remember, he's got a sword and two bows right now.
Yeah, so if he wants to stay on the ideal track, he would go for a vest, but there is no vest. He could go for a bow to try to make Rage Blade. Rage Blade is also something that's very flexible, and he can use a second bow for something else.
Yeah, I
Perhaps,
think that's why he grabbed the rod there.
yeah, just to improve his options. The only
Sure.
thing is that it's really expensive. A lot of times when you're on the carousel, you're always thinking about, what's the gold cost associated with with this item, and I think
Yeah.
it's okay for Ine because he's made so much pirate gold.
I would agree. Speaking of someone else with a pirate, there's Jace. No synergies, but now on board with DarkHydra, former SC2 Pro, now into TFT. We're seeing a couple StarCraft players move over to TFT. Polt and DarkHydra are the most
Yeah, right.
prominent names, but I'm sure there's some other ones out there. Yeah, and I've been saying for a long time that I felt a lot of parallels between the two games, and so it's not a big surprise to me to see some of these guys moving over. Builds an early Trap Claw. I mean, Trap Claw is great. And I suppose out of the defensive items, it's probably one of the better ones early, just to kind of swing a fight in your favor.
Yeah, Trap Claw has surprisingly become really important as a defensive item over
Mhm.
QSS for me. And I know that QSS is like obviously still really important, especially if you're trying to play like single carry builds like a Zaya.
Yeah,
Shredder composition. But Trap Claw seems to be really important because of how it can cover certain sprays of damage. You're talking about like people who are going to be casting a lot of their abilities over your entire team, like Misfortune. It,
Vel'Koz.
yeah, Vel'Koz. You
Yeah,
can if it doesn't have a QSS, Gangplank, even like Kale, right, in her ability. So
yeah,
you have to be really careful of not letting certain carries get stunned, and instead you can also use it to outposition your opponents. I like it a lot.
yeah. Trap Claw on the front line is starting to become really popular. I've been doing it a lot in my games. My defensive item will always just be defensive item of choice will always just be GA. Too many Star Guardian games, but yeah, Trap Claw can mess up your opponent's team pretty hard
Yeah.
early on. So just looking around the lobby a little bit, there's one Deathblade being built.
Right.
A lot
One
of
Deathblade,
focus
one
on
Rageblade.
yeah, a lot of focus on early Caitlyn carry out of a lot of these players as well.
Yeah, Caitlyn Carey has also just become one of the best things that you can get. I think people were really favoring
Yeah,
Twisted Fate towards the mid part of set 3, but Caitlyn is really powerful because not only does she deal a pretty good amount of damage just by herself, and if you get any kind of early snipers online, but because her ability kind of like guarantees that you kill another unit onto the board. So,
right.
at worst, assuming you have relative equal strength on the board, she will go 1 for 1.
Yeah, she's basically worth like +1 HP minimum each fight, even if you
Right,
lose, which is
which is
nice.
broken if that was the passive of a
Yeah,
champion.
exactly. And she's such a
Yeah.
great item holder as well. She can hold items for Jin is kind of her primary job, but she can also hold items for something like an Aurelia
Mhm.
or even like a Blaster later on. So
Yeah.
she makes good use of a lot of items that a lot of different comps use late game. So no surprise seeing a lot of Caitlyn's in the lobby. We're on to Terra Bursts. Let's see what people get.
Yeah, I actually really like this Trap Claw Slam the more I think about it because DarkHydra doesn't necessarily have a really good front line, so he's like bolstering it. He did sell that Malphite and put in his Leona too, so it did become better.
Yeah.
But he also has this early game Jace now, and he could actually build into several different compositions because Ionic Spark and Trap Claw are super flexible. And this is a style that I think Agon is really mastered. And I'm glad that Agon's in this lobby because perhaps we can even focus on it a little bit more. But basically, what you do is you prioritize building defensive items
Mhm.
and using quality of your units and synergy in order to win you the fights or at least be competitive. And then as the game develops and you find your carries, itemize the one or two offensive items, but then you still need a defensive item on your carry anyways. So that
Mhm.
transfers over really nicely.
It almost reminds me a little bit of the attitude people had when they were playing a lot of like Berserker in set 2, where you would generally have this like tanky-ish front line that you would prioritize like lockets on or other defensive items. And then late game you'd find like a Rage Blade, or something like that for Olaf. So we're starting to kind of see that come back again. I was actually talking about that with Gunmay the other day. And it is interesting to see the shift over to kind of defensive items early for a lot of these players. Not everybody, and he has that,
Right.
defensive or he has that, Rage Blade on Ari, which is gonna be good to swap over at some point.
Yeah, there's
Hmm,
there's several options at your disposal, and I think people are starting to just understand the balance that's needed because some synergies just inherently give you a lot of power.
yeah.
You're talking about like for people who play snipers, for example, like Jin doesn't really need too many offensive items. The
No.
most important item for a lot of people is maybe some of his defensive items, right? Like people used to say Guardian Angel was really important, but obviously that was a contentious issue. But Trap Claw was also really good. Some people started even putting Bramble Vest on him. And the idea is that your carries will be able to generate damage. And that's why they are the carries.
Right.
Make sure that they can stay alive and that they don't get bursted out because there are a lot of compositions out there that can end the game quickly, especially because right now you see a lot of Bomberman builds featuring Ziggs
Yeah.
and Gangplank. And they just like nuke your comp if you're not careful.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't have something like a GA bringing your carry back
Ooh.
after the egg goes off, oh, it finds a Jace too early, that feels good.
Huge pickup here for
Yeah.
DarkHydra. He is looking very strong. Yet at the same time, there's three people win streaking in this lobby. Agon looking like he's going for the Caitlyn carry builds, which is one of the
Hmm.
new builds that you see in 10.11. More on that in a bit. But how big is this Jace 2, Doa?
I mean, it's huge. Jace just does so much damage, right? You pair that with the Ionic Spark and the Trap Claw, so not only is he stunning whoever hits him first, but he's also just AoEing down like the entire enemy team and getting you a bunch of gold too. You have such a high chance of generating gold off Space Jam with his ult damage. Check it out. Yeah, he basically killed 3 people there. So finding a Jace 3 at 3-3 is massive.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
For the perfect 50. Doesn't even have to sell the Shen. Still very flexible. Can go KO. Can
Yeah.
obviously still play like a Xerath carry. Although Dark Stars have pretty much fallen off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
You still can play that if you really want.
I've been seeing some accounts that are a little bit higher up on NA playing a lot of Dark Stars. I don't feel like I would recommend it, but there's a couple out there.
Yeah, I think that what people are ignoring is that if like the tier B compositions, excuse me,
Mhm.
are like weak, but if they're uncontested, they can still do very well. And remember, Giant Slayer is going to be a course of a few weeks, so consistency is more important. No one taking a tier, by the way. So clearly, it doesn't seem like anyone's prioritizing the Ziggs build that much, except for one
Yeah,
player, and that might be really good for whoever we saw that was on that Ziggs build. It was
it certainly
Agon.
could be. I mean, when you do, I think it was Agon. Yeah, when you do end up, and we're gonna jump on with Agon. It looks
Oh
like
no, we're
he
hopping
has
on
a
with Agon.
tier. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he's
Agon was
going
playing
for
the Caitlyn build
right.
featuring Celestial and Protectors. And the idea is that you still play like Protectors as your front line, but Caitlyn will just be so tanky. And every time she casts her ability, she heals for an ungodly amount
Oh, and
because
there's
of
a
the
Caitlyn 3 as
Celestial
well.
buff. Yeah.
It's kind of similar to working Celestial into Darkstar because whenever Jin would hit anyone with that big fourth shot, you would get so much HP back. But yeah,
Right.
this is definitely a build that's kind of coming up right now.
Mhm.
And with the Deathblade, the Deathblade buff changed a lot actually. Suddenly, Deathblade has been like the item to get on most AD carries, and you can see why.
Yep. Yep.
Stacks fast.
However, I would say that Ruden's Hurricane seems just as important
Oh,
as
for
the
sure.
Deathblade itself because it helps you stack that much quicker. So you
Yeah,
can
it's like
tell
peanut
that
butter and
Agon
jelly, man.
yeah, it really, really wants that bow.
Yeah. Yeah, the each item is good in isolation, but much better as a pair. Ooh, the Kha'Zix 3, and he's got the IE
Yeah.
on it as well.
That's scary.
So
Sunny Lou already looking like a early candidate. It's not even just the fact that he has Kha'Zix and TF3. It's the fact that he has an early Vel'Koz as well.
yeah, with the Morellos.
Yeah, so, that's gonna actually give compositions like Agon problems because part of what he's trying to do is create a sturdy front line with Bramble Vest on Shinzao, and, if he's fortunate enough to even get a Dragon's Claw. But,
Mhm.
I mean, that doesn't matter because it's true damage. It just goes through all your resistances and health.
Yeah, exactly. You really need to count on your Caitlyn to, maybe one shot that Vel'Koz at some point or cut through their front line. Inay going down, taking a lot of damage from Aegon there. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing with Void is in a lot of lobbies right now, there's maybe only one, maybe two Void players, and one of them is going to get the better role. And so that Void player will suddenly be very strong against any sort of defensive comps that anyone else is running, whether it's for Vanguard snipers or Space Jam or something like this, where you're relying on the Protectors and the Celestials a bit more. And it's reasons like that why we're seeing Void go out in the mid-season patch. And I've really enjoyed playing Void. I've had a ton of fun with it. But at the end of the day, I gotta admit, yeah, it's probably good that Void's leaving the game.
Yeah, I mean, Void is supposed to be a counterplay option to people who stack resistances, but then the opposite end is if Void becomes the strongest. Holy cow!
Yeah,
Oh
then
my
no one can
gosh!
even play any of those comps that
Wow!
stack resistance. But that is a set of items, man.
Oh
Take your
yeah.
pick, dude. He's got the rune-ins, but he's
Yep.
also got the choice of like a QSS. He can build a trap claw. He can do a lot with this.
Yeah, so Dragon's Claw is a priority usually, and I think he's going to
Hmm.
prioritize Last
Okay.
Whisper as well because he has seen
Interesting.
some other people play some Bramble Vests.
So he's kind of just saying, well, I guess I don't hit the void guy because that Dragon's Fang is basically useless against that
Against
composition.
that, yes, but when you
Yeah.
see, for example, Nature's playing the Ziggs composition, magic resistance matters a lot for a person like Shinzao, and you can even see that
Hmm.
Akon, for example, not even prioritizing going to 6. He wants purely to try to get as many rolls that he can get at level 5.
Right. Man, the Zig build is so strong though. He's got the Jinx in there as well for a little bit more damage on the other side, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Is he gonna go now?
probably Ziggs.
Finds
I
a
think you do.
Soraka as well. Soraka. So there's a couple of ways that you can actually go about this Caitlyn carry composition with featuring Celestials.
Hmm.
Some people actually choose to hyper roll a lot more and try to go not only for the like Jarvan, Caitlyn's, but you can also play like TF and Zoe, or for example.
Sure,
I
yeah.
don't really like those nearly as much because it feels like those units itself, like Twisted Fate and Zoe, don't really do enough on their own compared to, say, going for Celestials or Protectors in this position.
I totally
Um,
agree.
yeah,
100%.
so I like this variant a little bit better, where you end up going for it. But overall, I'm that part of the reason why it makes it fun is because it's flexible. You can actually play so many different variants of it.
Yeah. With that Soraka that you mentioned a little bit ago, that's part of what you can include in the late game. If you go Karma for the Caitlyn and then a Soraka for Mystic and just a lot of healing as well, the comp gets really hard to stop. Looks like he's going to hold off on picking up the Soraka for now. You don't need to go the Mystic variation, but it can be really good depending on the lobby.
Yeah, well, Soraka's like a level 8 inclusion, so
Yeah,
it's so far down the line,
there's no
and it's
rush.
not a high impact enough unit, right? Like, if it's a level 8 inclusion, but it's a legendary, say, a Gangplank or a Misfortune for your composition, or an Echo if you're playing Cybernetics, like,
Yeah,
yeah, obviously keep that, but not really necessary right here.
he's still missing the best item in the game though, which is Karma.
The best item,
She's the best damage item in the
the
game.
4th item for your
Yep,
carry.
that's right. So we do have the wow, look at that. We actually have the Kha'Zix build kind of coming online. And that Vel'Koz, he's already got a Vel'Koz too with QSS and Morellos. That's
Yeah,
really strong. It might not be strong enough to win this round, but man, as soon as Void comes online, this comp is going to get very, very scary. It looks like he's going to win the round anyway,
yeah.
but
I was
man,
gonna say this is looking
so many
hard for
lures.
Agon to beat with just the Shins out too right now. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, there's a Cho too.
okay, so he has a spatula, which makes me think, can we find any use of it right now?
Oh, you could go
Definitely.
for a protector spat and then work out maybe the Nico into something else.
That's true. Could figure out a protector spat situation. Looks like he wanted to finish Titan's Resolve on his Shinzao since that seems to be the highest priority for him right now.
Yeah. What I would really like in that case is Protector Thresh, actually. Because you get the Chrono along with the Caitlyn, and then you just have Thresh being Thresh. And he casts quite a bit, so he's going to be proccing that shield fairly often.
Yeah.
On board with Crvor now. See what he's up to.
Yeah. He's playing Mech Infiltrator, a really common thing
Oh,
to
yeah.
play for Crewer in tournaments here, as he's trying to see if he can roll down and get 3 stars. But the thing is Mech's kind of weak. He only has Fizz, Annie at 2 star, Fizz and Rumble both currently at 1 star at the moment.
Yeah. Now, I was hanging out with Crew a little bit. He was on my show last week, and one of the games we did was Mech Infiltrator, and he was saying what basically a lot of the other Mech Infiltrator players too, and what you'll see him do every round is you pretty much have to reposition almost every round to really have any chance of winning right now with Mech, because you really need that's going to be a big ult. Oh, it didn't go off. Oh wow. But you really need to
Yeah.
kind of make sure you're jumping on the right carries. You need to make sure your mech isn't getting caught by something before it has a QSS. So it's a very movement intensive comp to play right now. And he kind of enjoyed that aspect of it, but that does add to the complexity of making it work. Definitely suffering a
Yeah.
little bit this time, though.
I think that the problem with Mech Infiltrator, is that it actually takes too long to get online.
Seems
It's
that
actually
way
the same
now,
problem
doesn't
that
it?
Agon's encountering right now, which is players who chose to roll for Kha'Zix, or if people choose to roll for Ziggs. Natures did not choose to, which I think is a wise decision, given that he wasn't getting the 4 tiers for it.
Yeah,
But those compositions come online way earlier, and Mech Infiltrator, with its nerf to its stats and the fact that it's harder for them to get online now quicker, it makes it that the power spike doesn't come until very late, and so you really need to have full understanding and mastery of how to lose the least amount of HP until you get online, if you get
yeah.
online.
Yeah, another thing a lot of mech players say though is that you can get down to like 30 HP and it's not the end of the world. You don't want to drop too much
Mm,
farther below that because then you get in like one life territory. But you can go down to where Crowor is right now and still come back from it. It's looking a little bit rough again because he just can't seem to find a Rumble 2, and you have to roll down now, right? You're 30
right.
HP. You got to roll down and at least find that Rumble 2, I think.
He's not even contested, which makes it even harder for him
Yeah,
to fathom like why this is happening. But
it is kind
I
of
think
crazy.
I think he's gonna have to roll down all the way on 5-1 to try to complete a 3 star.
Right. You have to find it well, at least the Rumble 2, of course,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Kai'Sa 3 would be good. You can't really
Okay.
blame him for going, Mech Infiltrator. He did find the demo spat early, which,
Right.
is usually, a lot of times a win condition. He's even got the Morellos for
Okay.
Kai'Sa now. So the items are great. If he can 3-star that Kai'Sa, he can definitely start win streaking.
There we go. 3 star Kaisa is the most important thing right now because he has the
Yeah,
best. He has best in slot items for her.
right.
One more
Shaco 3.
Shaco, one more Kaisa.
Oh. I'm like he has such good items. I'm almost rooting for him because I hate to see a Kai'Sa like that go to waste.
Okay,
Oh, it's
Rumble
another Rumble. Come
2.
on. Oh, not
Jeez.
like this.
Yeah, whoa, actually, I started realizing that he's also one Annie away. So yeah, I think he should have actually
Yeah.
continued to roll it down. Didn't get the Dragon's Claw in time,
Oh, all
but he
right.
can
Well,
at least get Shaco.
yeah, he's got a lot of items to use. He actually does have a Nico, so like you mentioned, all he needs is one more Kai'Sa.
Yeah, the
Static
Shaco is
Shiv.
good
All
enough
right.
to at least temporarily carry if he can get
Run
around the other
circles.
mechs.
Like Shaco's just like, it's time to play Duck Duck Goose. Wait, did you say when you were a kid, did you say Duck Duck Goose or Duck Duck Gray Duck?
What?
You know the
Definitely
game?
Duck Duck Goose. That was the name
Okay,
of the
yeah.
game.
Right, it's Duck Duck Goose, right? Yeah, I've what was weird is I grew up in
Yeah,
Wisconsin, and it was Duck Duck Goose.
that is weird.
Then in high school, I moved to Minnesota, and they called it Duck Duck
So
Grey
weird.
Duck, and I was like, "That doesn't make any sense." Oh, you know what else is a little bit tough to stomach is throwing in another, random mech piece. I guess it doesn't have any items on it, so you're not gonna get mixed up with the items probably, but still.
Yeah, this is Agon's potential last life. Looks like he did
Oh,
hit the
boy.
Shinzao 3, but he didn't hit the Rakan 3, and he is one Rakan away. And I think this is a bad matchup for him because Mech gets behind him.
Yeah.
But can he kill Shinzao, right? That's usually the question that you ask when it's a Mech versus Shinzao battle.
Right. I mean, Xin Zhao's basically as big as the mech with the Titan's Resolve pop.
It's close.
It's still a one-star mech,
Yeah, it's
more or
too much
less.
health gain, actually. So
Yeah,
looks
no
like
kidding.
Shinzao should take this.
That's Celestial. Wow. So
Ooh.
the Rumble even does have a little bit of a Morello's effect to it, but it's just way too much when you have those kind
Yeah.
of Exodia items on Xin Zhao 3.
Yeah, the enemy of mech for a long
Uh,
time actually has been anything that just has Bramble Vest and never dies. So
yeah.
like Poppy, Shinzao, like all these make it very difficult for mech to chew through. And you can see that Crvor is getting kind of desperate. Like he was looking for any kind of loose synergies. Usually around now you try to play like a Lux or something to give your team a
Right.
little bit of CC. Maybe you play a Kale so you can get Valkyrie bonuses, but you have to play a Zoe 1 because he's just too poor.
Yeah, that hurts. He does manage to position his mech in the right place to get in front of everybody. Kale
Right.
GA gets popped almost immediately. And
Yeah.
all right, it's looking okay this time around. So DarkHydra not able to quite win it there.
Nah. I mean, Crvor is online. He also has the ability to get even stronger the moment he finds Kaisa 3. I think Rumble 3 might be a while before we get to see it.
Yeah, probably. He just needs to get that Kaisa 3. And here's our first full item carousel. What's he gonna grab?
Oh, he's annoyed by that. That
Yeah.
Ionic Spark was definitely the
Oh,
best item for his Kaisa. Now he doesn't have anything else. I think he can consider taking some items for Shaco. Oh, Shaco already has 3 items actually. Oh wow, he is so unsure about what he wants here in this position.
and now there's just not much good stuff left. He ends up with the red buff, but yeah, you can see Crvor head in his hands right there.
Yeah.
That's rough, man, because you're trying to say,
Yeah.
all right, like where can I fit an item and who's gonna make the best use of it? And then everybody else grabs all the possibilities right as you think of them.
Yeah, I think red buff is probably one of the most useless items.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
actually,
sure.
I realized that he has 3 items already on his Kaisa as well. So
Yeah.
that's I misspoke. But one thing that you can try to itemize instead is try to itemize for Gangplank. There's been some mech builds that try to level up aggressively and play Demolitionist with a Gangplank. And even if you get the Demolitionist spat on Kaisa, it's still like good AoE. And so for a bit of the previous patch, and I haven't really seen it much on this patch, but some people do play Gangplank. And so you can give him like QSS, or you can give him some mana items to try to have him cast it.
Right. So Sphinx going with the void build here. Things getting melted pretty quick though, although that Cho'Gath is pretty large. And that
Yeah,
Kha'Zix is terrifying. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, where you don't necessarily need to go. It looks like you might lose this one anyway. You will, but you don't necessarily need that Kha'Zix 3 to do well in a lobby. A lot of people are hyper rolling for it, but uh, one thing I've kind of learned is that you don't need to. You know, you can just sort of like slow roll for that
oh,
Kha'Zix 3, and if you don't get it,
oh.
you don't get it. Oh, and he finds a Kaisa 3.
He
He
finds a double
should.
Kaisa shop. That's
Oh,
crazy.
does he use the Nikos on this? 23 HP.
It's okay. I think he doesn't have to use a Nikos. He's just gonna go ahead and sell the sorcerer.
Okay.
Um,
It's brave.
it is brave. There's a chance that this doesn't work out the way he wants it to, but
Yeah.
okay. If because I think if you have 4 mech pilots and 2 of the same one, it chooses 3 randomly. So I think, unless I'm mistaken, because I've never tried it myself
Mhm.
extensively, but if you put 3 of the or 4 of them in, there's a chance that the mech doesn't actually inherit the items.
That's what I have heard in the past, and so that's why I've always avoided doing that when I'm playing mech, but, I don't know if I've ever actually
Oh,
seen it
jeez.
happen.
Yeah.
Star Guardian Bangle and 2 Trap Claws, that's interesting.
So this is actually like one part of the issue with mech on Treasure Trove in particular is that sometimes you actually just don't have enough like champions to put items on, or rather, just like it's kind of clunky. Like, what is this trap call going to
Right.
go like on Kha'Zix?
I mean, I guess you
Put it
put
on your
the
sorcerer.
yeah, you put a trap claw on him. Maybe you put your trap claw on a Kha'Zix, like you said. Put the Star
Yeah,
Guardian Bangle on the Vel'Koz just because it's a tier, you know?
got it. Yeah. Um, So, got clarification, by the way. Mort was saying that it's always a priority of Annie's, then Rumbles, then Fizz, which makes the most sense here.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes because
just
I've always heard
get
that, but
some
I've never actually
clarification.
seen it happen. So that does make a
Yeah.
lot more sense. All right. That's just
Okay.
kind of
Well.
like that's a scary like bedtime story they tell TFT players where
Jeez.
it's like, don't put another mech in because one time little Timmy put an extra rumble in and his mech had no items and then he got blasted. I mean, he
Yeah,
lost, not, you know.
and that's how he got eighth in Giant Slayer series.
That's right. Yeah. Don't be like little Timmy.
Inay playing the Korean Jin composition with two of everything. It's two Vanguards, two Demolitionists, two Snipers, to Celestials. But the problem with that composition is that if your opponent gets to the back line, those carries blow up real quick.
True enough.
So it actually does have a pretty bad matchup sometimes against any infiltrator based build.
Yeah, it's really hard to position around that with any sort of snipers build because you don't want to move your snipers up because then they lose a lot of the damage boost you get from being a sniper. But even if
Right.
they're in the back line anywhere, they're fighting people right up next to them. So it's not great either way.
Yeah,
There's
precisely.
a good long look at it. Or it's a different one actually.
Ooh.
That's a strong Ziggs. That is
That's a strong composition. It's not just the Ziggs.
yeah,
The Misfortune has a Demolitionist spat on it, and Gangplank seems to be itemized. This is really intimidating.
very good.
DarkHydra going up against Crvor right now, trying to see if his Kale composition can get the win. Kale's actually very good against mech these days because if you can protect her, she just wails on the clumped up units really easily.
Right. Is he gonna get another ult off? No, not quite. All right, the
No,
luck stun
this is
comes
bad.
through, but
He's
that is
dead.
not looking good.
Oh, if he can kill
And
two more units,
Cror
though,
yeah, that Kale's gonna never die to the Annie though. Yeah.
I think he might
Can he
barely
live?
survive here. That's
Ooh,
huge. Yes,
2 HP.
that one extra unit kill makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, credit to Cror. He's top 4. So making the mech work. Good items on Kaisa certainly does help that.
Hmm.
So good start for Nature's DarkHydra, Sunny Lu, and Cror as they are officially now our first top 4 of our first lobby of Giant Slayer Series Season 2.
Yeah, one thing that's actually curious is that Crvor positioned his Shaco without even capitalizing on the Zeeks, and I think that's a pretty
Mhm.
good, example of how some people over prioritize getting like the maximum synergy buff when positioning can just matter a lot more by having a unit be in a right spot there.
Totally.
Although
Oh
it
my.
doesn't matter how many units you have in the right spot if your opponent just chews you up through that. But the Vel'Koz
Then
died, so did the
again,
Cosmic. So this means that Crvor should be able to at least take out Sunny here.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's a big Zerot minion, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. So Sunny Lu exiting in
Wow.
4th, and Cror made it all the way up to top 3 now.
Void
Good
Brawler
result for
not
him.
crushing the top two. That's kind of a surprise. Void Brawler's been super powerful, but at the same time, it makes sense because they did experience a little bit of nerf.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite as strong as it was a little bit ago. It's still a strong comp, but I think one of the things that it does suffer from early on is things like infiltrators because you jump on it if you can get a lot of wins against a player that only has a
Whew.
Belcause 1, you can reduce HP a lot, and that is a nice pickup for the GP
Yeah.
right there, getting the double strike.
It's also like, the chalice, which the experimental changes, by the way, is changing chalice to giving AP
Dude, I love it.
adjacent to whoever the heroes are. But
I love
for
that, by the
now,
way.
this is still a very good opportunity for him to capitalize on these double chalices, one on Misfortune, one on Ziggs.
Yeah, thinking about moving it around. Just trying to
Yeah.
reposition a little bit to avoid some of the danger. I love new chalice, by the way, on the PBE. It's magic Zeeks. It's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, it's basically mana printing with Ziggs in a way, and now because he's clumped up, Misfortune can get the ability off, but because he's also clumped, the stun from the Demolitionist caught him and interrupted Misfortune ult.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of the traditional problem that Rebels faces against Mech, right? Because Mech
Oh
just
my
walks in and
gosh.
AOE's your entire team and stuns them. So when you add all of the damage from Kaisa on top of that, the Morellos as well, like Rebels positioning just by its nature really suffers against Mech, and Crvor has a chance to actually maybe claim a top three here. DarkHydra, looking at his comp, pretty strong with the Kale Aurelia. Only an
It's
MF1,
tough.
but good items.
This is really close. Every
Hmm.
player is basically one loss away from dying. Oh, Nature's with the fake out, trying to see if he's going to switch to catch other people off guard. Ends up going back to the original positioning. Has to dodge Shroud of Stillness. That's the most important thing.
Yep.
Oh, and Dark Hydra targets the Gangplank. That's even more important than hitting the Zigs and the Misfortune, because Gangplank is one of those catalysts to unlock the rest of the composition to deal damage. But does it matter?
But one big
So
MF ult
close.
on each side. It looks like it's
Depends
gonna
on this
be Dark
Kale.
Hydra going down. And is it gonna end right here? We could have the game finish right here, depending on how the Ghost one ends.
No, the
Oh,
Ghost
it
beats
is.
Crvor. And
Nature's
just
takes
like
the first
that,
lobby.
a fun
Yeah,
little rock, paper, scissors ends up favoring Nature's at the end, and Nature's takes home the W.
not bad. And that's the fun with things like treasure trove is you can go for these like crazy Ziggs builds where you have perfect items, and then you have items, all the items you need for your Jinx, and all the items you need for your MF, and then Aurelion Soul is just kind of like trolling around, shooting out those little carrier dudes. So yeah, well played. I like the fake out at the end. Just kind of powering his way through to a 3 HP lobby one victory.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really small, subtle things that Nature's also did really well. Building having the building blocks to understand what his composition needs to do late game, and in general, in terms of general broad strokes, the king of late game in auto battlers is AOE and CC.
Right.
Just being able to spread out your damage, as well as stun people is massive. And the fact that he's getting things like his mana printer on the Ziggs and getting Misfortune to help add an additional layer of stuns gives them
Yeah.
a high chance to blow out people in team fights.
Yeah, Crore managed to grab second in that lobby, dying slightly after Dark Hydra. So managed to grab that number two spot and the 8 points that come with it.
Mhm.
But interesting first lobby. We did see, but the thing is, on Treasure Trove, you oftentimes see the mech player get a pretty decent score because you do get a lot of good items. So even though you kind of run out of places to put items, sometimes the items that you do have on there are generally pretty high quality. Sunny Lu ends up in fourth, and then the drop off down to fifth. Inay, Sphinx, Agon, and Higa in our bottom four for lobby number one.
Yeah, it looked like perhaps Europe was going to just storm and take top three there, but Nature's holding it down for NA, at least for one lobby.
Yeah,
Speaking of NA, Inay, a player that I think a lot of people have their eye on, not able to crack top four despite getting that Jin composition online. And I think that, it could be an itemization thing. We didn't really get a chance to focus on him too much.
right.
Like perhaps he didn't find the right items, even though it was on Treasure Trove. At the same time, though, like you got to look at the top four compositions, and all of them hit like basically the power spike that they were looking for. So it's a really tight lobby. Even if you hit, it doesn't mean you guarantee top four.
Yeah, for sure. It really relies a lot on positioning, a lot on scouting, a lot on making sure that you are keeping your economy strong so you can make those late game pivots that you need to. And if any one of those things falls through in a lobby like this with so many high powered players, that's going to knock you out of the top four pretty often. On board with Nature's now as we get started with lobby number two, just a regular old galaxy this time, but offensive item carousel.
Yes, an offensive item carousel, specifically the rod sword tier combination. Sometimes offensive carousels, you're looking actually for bow and glove, but
Sure.
this one is pretty interesting because these are the items that, for the most part, people build around. Rod a little bit less, but sword and tier are like two definitive items of which, if you get them early, you oftentimes just almost decide your composition right there. If you
Yeah.
get a tier, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to build Seraph's Embrace and either go for the Ziggs reroll compositions and play Rebels, or I'm going to try and use the Seraph's Embrace to play a Void composition.
Or Star Guardians.
Star Guardians, I
if
mean,
you're
it's
me.
not impossible to win a lobby with
Hey,
them. They're
so
definitely a step or two down from the rest of the composition,
let me
though.
tell you the state of Star Guardian Sorcerer in the current meta right now.
All right.
It's so you can go Candyland, obviously, right? That's kind of the currently strongest sorcerer related build. But that said, on things like Trade Sector, where you're getting a lot of rerolls, on things like Treasure Trove, where you have a lot of items to work with, and just if you happen to hit the right things in the shop on pretty much any map, Star Guardian Sork, if it's played well, can be top 4 still. It's not going to win a lot of lobbies, but I'd say it's still like a solid B to B minus comp. Solid B to B minus. That doesn't sound very
You're a
good, does it?
very, very nice guy, Noah. I can tell because you're rating that composition very nicely.
Hey, I said B to B
I,
minus. I didn't even say B
I,
plus.
th-
What do
I
you
think
want from
B
me?
minus is generous, but
That's
yeah,
just because you're
you're
not as
you're
good
a
at
generous
playing it as
guy.
I am.
I need to get on your level.
That's right. Get on my Star Guardian level. Actually,
Yes.
no, that would be a hit to your LP, so don't do that.
Well, either way, like we said, there are compositions that can still do well despite them not being popular, right? Mech,
Oh
for
yeah.
example, isn't exactly like a top tier composition right now, but as you can see, still has a lot of power if it hits, and it's uncontested, which it was from Crvor.
Well, I think
Um,
the word uncontested, if you can apply that to any comp you're playing in the lobby, that automatically like bumps it up a couple power levels, even if it is, not one of the top 4 comps or top 5 comps in the meta.
yes, they're in the extremities of the variance in compositions. Basically, what I mean is if you high roll really hard, you can top 4 with anything. Um,
Sure.
but
Well,
in terms of the average power spike, I think, compositions like Star Guardians or Dark Stars or 4 Space Pirates, which I was thinking, like, I was kind of hoping Inay would get when he got 5 Graves by like 2-2.
uh,
But all those variations of compositions, they can do well, but they require some pretty, lucky things to happen and fall in place.
a little bit of luck and a little bit of
Yeah,
knowledge of when you have that opportunity too.
yeah.
Because that's another thing with some of these like less played comps is that because they're less played, a lot of times somebody will have an opportunity to have that game, but just not know that they do.
Yeah, yeah. So take a look at Nature's early game start here. Looks like he got off to a round 1 win in stage 2, which is nice. He has the early game Caitlyn 2, which is also nice. He has 2 rods and a. Oh, is it just 2 rods? I thought I saw a
Yeah.
sword, for example, but 2 rods and a sword already makes me think that we should play Rebels again because it gives you the ability to play Deathcap and GA.
I mean, maybe
But
I've been spending too much time with Gunmay, but I see 2 rods and I'm thinking, "Oh, well, we're going Space Jam then."
I mean, that was like my second thing that I was probably going to start pointing out, which was that you can play some reroll compositions that involve giving you options to use Death Cap, and one of them would be Space Jam.
For sure.
That being said, I think Space Jam is feeling like a lot worse these days because of compositions like Void Brawler, which is completely dunking any kind of tankiness that you have. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how heavy resistance you have.
It's a combination of a lot of brawler comps and then also GA kind of gaining some popularity as a carry item. So
Right.
your Darius gets stopped a little bit more in the last few weeks than he has in the past.
Oof.
Oh, but there's the
Wow.
Darius. No, he's
It's
there's a lot of choices to be made right now though.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but it's so many pairs. He does have a
Yeah.
2-star Caitlyn, and he's somehow pieced together something for that. But
You just don't have the items though. Not yet anyway.
yeah, he does have
Huh.
3 Vanguards, 4 if he plays the Leona. So he actually can play a 4 Vanguard bridge until he defines his carry. Like maybe if he finds a bow, he can play Rageblade. And I
I
think
wouldn't
that's
be
why he's
opposed to
not
that.
committing. Yeah, that's why I think
Yeah.
that's why he's not committing to anything right now.
Yeah, I think the era where like 4 Vanguard sniper in a late game is not very good anymore, but 4 Vanguard is still a very solid like early mid game thing to rely on while you wait for other synergies to come online, or like another couple crucial 2 stars. Ooh, does he
Wow.
win this? Is it-
I don't think so
I
because
don't
the
think so
Kate's gonna
either.
ult on the other side first,
Yep.
and that Rageblade stack was just enough to get that mana going.
He was thinking about picking up that Darius. You've got the Jace, so there there is a reason at least, but I think he's going to wait to see and see what item he picks up off the carousel before he commits to any Jaces in future shops. Or not Jaces, Darius.
I mean, there is a Darius with a
What?
cloak on it, but the bow is definitely better.
That's Ionic Spark Darius.
Yeah, that's like the number one thing to think about here. Ionic
Yeah.
Spark Darius, or you can just sell Darius and put the Ionic Spark on Jace. That's also a really good option. I think that might be actually better because he
In his case, yeah.
already has the Vanguards in place.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nature's is still playing very open. So if you want to follow along with what he's doing, you can go ahead and hop over to his stream as it does
Oh,
find that Ash, so he can play Vanguard Sniper if he has the transition he wants.
okay. So over to Higa to see what he's up to, but it did look like Nature's was finally starting to put together a little bit stronger of a board there. He's already in third anyway for HP, so it's not bad. Higa
Yep.
has the double infiltrator. Well, he's got infiltrator Vanguard going right now,
Yeah.
and
So this to
interesting
me
mix of
looks
items. Yeah,
This to me looks like he wants to go Void Brawler because he's itemizing his Kha'Zix.
right.
Well, not really itemizing. He put a sword on Kha'Zix, but the idea is that you can use Kaisa as a item holder for Vel'Koz, and
Mhm.
you're able to use obviously Kha'Zix as your main carry, and then when you find Vel'Koz, you can just transfer it over because, as we know, Seraphs and Morello is a very good set of items, and even
Yeah.
just with this, 1-star carries with just a 2-star front line is good enough. Also worth noting, there's a triple Jarvan in the shop, and that's how much he doesn't care about that unit. Not even willing to play 2 stars.
I mean, if you're not going to go Shredder, there's really no reason to pick up a Jarvan because a Jarvan 2-star in isolation just isn't that strong. But I think you're making a good call with the Rebels here. I think one of the tricky parts is that you don't even have a Kha'Zix 2 yet, which feels a little bit awkward. And we mentioned earlier you don't necessarily need to hyper roll for that Kha'Zix. You can just sort of like slow build towards your Void build because you do need 2 4-cost characters to make Void work, right? So you can't sit and reroll forever. But not having a Kha'Zix 2 by now is still a little bit alarming if this is what you want to do.
Yeah, but I guess what the most important thing was you saw what he could do, which was click every other portrait and see if anybody's leaning towards it. The people that hold Kha'Zix right now, I think only one player might be going for it. The other people just seem to be playing best board, and that's a
Sure.
completely different thing than just actually going for Kha'Zix. So those people plan on selling it later on. What really stinks is him not winning here, so we can't make gold by selling.
Kaisa
Um,
2. All
okay,
right. You sometimes feel a little bit bad about even making a Kaisa 2 because you're going to be selling it at some point anyway. But where
right,
he is still lacking some 2-stars, I think this time it's warranted to lose a little bit of gold. It's another thing we won't have to worry about after the mid-set patch comes through. Actually, you can sell everything
right.
back for full value, which I think is a really exciting change. I think that's the most exciting change actually in the mid-set patch is just
Some of the mechanics,
the the opportunities it opens up in terms of
right.
changing compositions very flexibly, very smoothly.
Okay, the tiers appear in shop. Another glove. So I know that Shredder has taken a pretty big hit.
Sure.
But I mean, if he's oh wow, I mean he's hitting like I remember he had that Jarvan triple and he had the Zaya pair here in the shop. It's like it seems like one of those things where obviously it's not nearly as good as it was the previous patch. It's a Kha'Zix 2, thankfully, but
I find
sometimes
the
the
TF as
game doesn't
well.
necessarily let you go for what you want to go for. So always worth thinking about it.
I
That
mean,
being said,
he doesn't have bad items for Void right now. Yeah, there's the Infinity Edge. He can make a Seraphs on the Kaisa, which is strong as well because that Seraphs will eventually be on the Vel'Koz. So you've still
yeah,
got like decent items, honestly. If you
yeah,
want to
I'm
go
not
Void,
advocating for him. I'm not saying that he should have pivoted. It's just something to always think about when you're playing the game and you're
sure.
like you might be tunneling a little bit too hard just because Void Brawler is still very good. By no means is it a slouch.
Yeah, I mean, my concern was that it took him so long to hit a Kha'Zix 2, but again, you don't need the Kha'Zix 3, but you will start to suffer at this point in the game if you don't have a little bit stronger of a front line to go along with the double infiltrators,
Right, because
as
it's
we just
generally
saw.
accepted that you do end up losing throughout stage 3, like the almost the entire time as the Void Brawler player because you're trying
Right.
to roll down. The exception is if you like hit Kha'Zix 3 really early, then most oftentimes you'll either preserve HP by losing very little, or you'll just start to actually win all your fights.
He really needs a Blitzcrank is what he needs because it'd be really great if he could actually swap out that Mord and put a Blitzcrank Malphite in instead. So we will see.
Yeah,
He
obviously not
might,
ideal, but at the same time, that Malphite 2 was a really big hit because he just needed a little bit more time
yeah.
for his his carries to deal damage. Looks
Well,
like Crvor once
ooh,
again
interesting.
leaning towards Mech Infiltrator right off the bat, and we heard him talk about it before, which is that he says that he wants to go into a tournament with a game plan, doesn't really want to play like too fluid and open because he wants to be focused, and
Mhm.
so he goes in playing a composition he feels very comfortable with, and I mean most people who play Mech a lot are very comfortable with that composition. It probably, I think, to this day with the set might have the most amount of one trick experts in it
Yeah,
out of any
probably.
any composition this pat or this set.
It's a composition that gets a lot of flack, but when you actually look at it and study a little bit, it's a composition that involves a lot of knowledge of positioning and a really good sense of scouting. And I think that's what appeals to a lot of players that play it, is that not only, does it have good results, of course, but it really makes you stay engaged the entire game, which is fun. You can never tune out when you're playing Mech Infiltrator. Or at
Yeah.
least not in this patch anyway.
I am kind of intrigued by the positioning choices here from Higa. He's putting his Malphite in the middle of stuff, and usually Malphite's like in the front. And you can see like Mordekaiser, for example, just gets blown up. And Malphite being a very good damage sponge ends up kind of being the last to be targeted.
Right.
So I'm wondering if he is doing that intentionally to try and lose a little bit more, so he can keep that loose streak gold going while he rolls. But he's pretty far from any Kha'Zix 3, so him slow rolling might actually be a fool's errand here.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit grim right now. And there are the other concerns as well, where like I mentioned the Blitzcrank earlier, you want to be able to get that online because you want to be able to put in like the TF as well. And
Hmm.
then you have Chrono, which adds a lot of damage. You have your brawlers, you have the disruption that Blitzcrank gives you. So he's kind of missing some core sort of like mid-game components to succeed if he's going to play the board like this.
Well, the second thing that I want to talk about too is that he could went for a bow, which means he's prioritizing rapid fire cannon instead of, say, for example, Guardian Angel or itemizing his Vel'Koz. There was a guide that was put out by a challenger one trick void player that was saying that you try to build one item on Kha'Zix and then you prioritize Vel'Koz afterwards. So I'm gonna see if that strategy for Higa ends up paying off later.
That's interesting. Huh. Vel'Koz obviously excels the most with RFC, Infinity Edge, and probably GA in a lot of cases. But you
Yeah, I would
do
definitely
need
say
the
I would actually
dams
say
with
GA
Vel'Koz.
is the most important item on Kha'Zix for sure.
Yeah. Well, on board with Sunny Lu now, who I believe was our fourth place player for lobby number one, if I remember correctly. And just a little bit of a Chrono Celestial right now, just trying to get some damage done with the Caitlyn.
Yeah, this clearly looks like some kind of setup for a Kale-based composition because the rapid fire cannon is pretty much the only item missing from that set
Yeah.
of Rage Blade and the Quicksilver. Doesn't look like we'll be able
Ooh,
to. Oh, actually, never mind. The Caitlyn ability actually did a lot more
Caitlyn
than I
too.
thought it was. Yeah, I kind of thought
Yeah.
Poppy was just going to farm the rest, but the Caitlyn 2 ability is just really powerful.
Yeah, she's not critting, so it doesn't get affected by the Bramble Vest. She is just
Mhm.
hitting you for that much damage. That's just how it goes. Inay, number one in the lobby right now. We got a glimpse of that. And no, that's a Darius 2 being built. So possibility for Space Jam over on that board. I didn't get a chance to look at it too
Yeah,
thoroughly.
it's a good start for Inay because that's the position that he is known for. Inay is a player that loves win streaking and slamming items. Even if a lot of players, you know, question ping him like, "What are you doing?" and he's like, "I'm just trying to win streak,
uh,
man, and preserve my like top 3 finish." And that seems to be Inay's style. That's what helped him get to number 1 earlier this set.
yeah, man. That's a positive LFP if you can get the top four. That's all you
Yeah.
need. Higa, though, did end up building the Rage Fire on Kha'Zix. And so there's some good items. Obviously missing the GA, but while that Kha'Zix is alive, he will do a lot of damage, just like that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, part of it could be that Higa is playing Kha'Zix because it doesn't seem particularly too contested from what we saw at first glance. And
Right.
again, we're only watching a few POVs here. I don't really see anyone else going Void Brawler. So if that's the case, that's probably why he feels good enough to itemize Kha'Zix as a priority because he doesn't feel like being contested will challenge him.
Yeah. And even if you do not hit the Kha'Zixes early on, if you stick with it and you keep your eye out, you'll probably 3-star him at some point in the game. So then that'll be another like potentially huge power spike in the late game too, you know? Well, I was trying to watch the fight, but then this clown popped up.
All right. Well, another Rage Blade is available. Also, can itemize with that extra vest on Graves. But here we go. Level 7 roll down. Something that we've seen actually quite commonly these days on the patch because people feel like saving to 8 is just a little bit too greedy. 7's when you start hitting your tier 4 units like Kale, Irelia. In this case, picking up an early Misfortune is also tempting. I mean, it's got to be something that you pick up here.
Right. It's in isolation, just such a strong start.
Yeah, the items don't really lend itself well directly to Misfortune, but I mean, the second Rage Blade is super good for that Kale if she ever shows up. From this
Yes.
position, Doa, I feel like whenever I do this specifically, where I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of the pack, preserves a good amount of HP, have good items for it, that makes my Kale chances to hit like 2% for the rest of the game.
Yeah, possibly. Doesn't sound very good.
I mean, I'm just kind of joking, but like it feels like I can't ever find Kale when I like start building these items. Oh, he finds
Oh,
immediately though.
well, there you go. I mean, he had to just prove you wrong. Get out of my face, clown. You gotta change that sub animation.
It's
Sunny Lou.
working. It's trying to throw you off your game, Doa, and it's
It
working.
is. Well, like you mentioned, he does have great items for the Kale. And you've got the MF as well in there for Valkyrie. So pretty strong for Sunny Lou despite being down at 49 HP. We will see what he can do against Sphinx here, a player that we haven't talked a whole lot about yet today. Sphinx going for the Rebels build, excuse me, with the Ziggs. Only one Seraph so far, though.
Yeah, the KO composition here against the Rebels really depends on how fast the front line falls because both back lines are just capable of nuking everything down to 0 super quick. So if the front line is sturdy enough, which you see why he prioritized things like Bramble Vest and Redemption, and he was actually holding on to Redemption to the very last second to see if he wanted to place it on a unit for the immediate heal or to put it eventually just on someone that he needed it later, like for Malphite. And I think that's a
Right.
really nice intermediate to advanced tip for players. Just because you have an item doesn't mean you have to immediately slam it. Sometimes holding it for a mid battle decision can often be what helps you get over the hump.
Yeah.
A roll down. He's looking for KL2. He
Oh, he
finds it.
finds it.
What a
Wow.
god. That's what I've been doing wrong. I just haven't
Just
been
didn't believe.
hitting enough on 7.
15% chance, and he just gets it. All right.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't look like there's many people playing Kale right now. There's like one
Mhm.
other player that looked like they were playing Kale at most. And then the second thing is he had 2 Kales already. So I think that decision to roll was informed. I don't think it was just like donkey rolling, so to speak, or
Sure.
just kind of throwing his gold away. It was a calculated risk that has paid off here.
Yeah, and he's at a little bit sub 50 HP, so you are starting to feel a little bit of pressure now. He could get a Lulu too, actually, if he just goes for that.
Yeah, that
And
looks
Lulu
good
too
to
is
me.
so strong. I would just
Yes.
pick that up in a heartbeat.
And it's Lulu with like a defensive item, which
Yeah,
I think is in terms of like only one component. If you can't get a tier, get something defensive for Lulu and just put it on her.
yeah. You got to grab the Lulu here, right? Oh, of course.
Hundred
Yeah,
percent.
dude, that's insanely strong. Actually, Lulu
Yeah.
too is just. I call Lulu like the ultimate TFT band aid because she can go in any comp. It doesn't matter. And if you have a Lulu too, she is going to make such a massive difference that it shores up any other weaknesses your comp might have.
Yeah, Lulu, especially if you just put her with a Shojin, is like you said, is extremely versatile and can go into any composition. Two Celestial, two Mystic is not hard to splash in either if you are a composition that can afford Lulu.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I 100% agree there. The Malphite switch for the Wukong is a little contentious only just because it's a 1-star Wukong, and Malphite with Bramble Vest is surprisingly tanky, but looks like he's trying to find a way to transition here while still making the gold.
Yeah, trying to find a way to make sure he has a Chrono
Yeah,
in his comp, which makes sense
yeah.
when you're trying to power up that Kale.
And getting the mana-based item onto Lulu too is another significant power spike. So while you don't necessarily have as good of a front line, you still gain a lot by having Lulu. Although
Oh, all
that
right.
Trap Claw stun for forever onto the Kale. She basically just didn't get she got disabled for the rest of the fight there.
Yep. That notification is my face right now.
Yeah. Also, that looked like a space pirate core, but
I'll take it.
I mean, we shall see.
Hmm.
As
All right.
Inay right now has the makings of once again that Korean Jin composition, two synergies across the board.
Yep. Otherwise known as Jin Boom, which I like that name a little bit more. It's so
Jin
fun.
boom.
Jin Boom, which I think it describes the comp perfectly, right? Because GP goes boom, and then there's Jin, right?
Got it.
Jin Boom. Yeah.
Well, it's 2-2-2, and I know that you've seen your own fair share of that from your
Yeah,
time
I've seen plenty of
casting other
2-2-2
games.
in other games. Yep. I've had enough of that 2-2-2.
Yeah.
I'll take this one instead.
And I think
Yep.
it's a very solid composition. I mean, there's a reason why he was doing well in Korea. And what's really interesting to me is Ine holding 4 item components all the way through stage 4, yet win streaking.
That
But I
is
mean, it
kind
has
of
a lot
crazy.
to do with the fact that it seemed like he kind of spiked this gangplank. If you can
Yeah.
find a GA, that'd be great. Um, and if you can find another item maybe for Jin, that'd be great. Those are the only 2 things that he'd probably be looking for. So probably Runan's Hurricane and a guardian angel would be the best items if you could choose it.
Well,
At
he's
the
also
same
got that
time,
Miko's as well. So all he needs to find is one more lucky GP, and that turns into a GP2 really fast.
yeah, at the same time, he has so many components that makes me think he's not going to get any items. If at most he might get one, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right, Deathblade's good though.
Oh yeah, totally. He was leaving himself open for the possibility of possibly getting something like a Runin's Hurricane for Jin. That'd probably be the other item you want right now. What's he going to do with the
Yes.
rest of these? Hmm.
Seraph's is okay on Gangplank. I mean, it just helps him get his ability off quicker.
Yeah, and he
So
only
that's
needs
an
to do it
option.
once.
I also really want to get this Ionic Spark onto Gangplank too, because that's like a really important item. But I can totally understand why putting on a Vi makes sense temporarily, or at least in the early game, because Vi basically snipes units when she has an Ionic Spark on her.
Right. She also just runs through the entire team and applies it to everyone a lot of times. So you can spread it around a little bit easier with the Vi. Whoa, Jin Boom.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily like the best version of this either, because he doesn't have a Demolitionist in. Usually, you're supposed to put in Rumble
Yeah.
as your 8th unit. And because, like you said, it's 2-2-2, so you put 2 things in across the board here. So, what does he have in that's extra?
Um, does this usually run Chrono? It's got to be the Jace,
It's the
I think.
Vi.
No, not the Jace. Oh, the
The
Vi. Right,
Vi. The
right.
Vi is
Of
actually the
course.
last unit in. So once he finds an appropriate frontliner to replace, he's just gonna swap that Vi out.
Well, that'd be a Rumble, wouldn't it?
Yes, but more specifically, like if he's able to get like GP2 or Wukong the
Sure.
2-star. It's just that right now his front line's too flimsy.
Yeah.
Half his front line is still at 1 star right now.
All he needs is for GP to ult once, and then this comp has done what it needs to do. But without
And
the
you hate to
GA,
see it.
yeah, you get situations like this where Gangplank does not ult at all.
Yeah.
But it
I
looks
want
like
to
he's
say
still
that I
okay,
think
maybe.
this
No.
Seraph's on the Thresh actually is pretty clever because it's pulling a lot more units than I thought he would. Simply because he gets off quicker and then he's able to do it again after
Yeah.
you've bought a little bit more time. So I like that. Like my first instinct was, oh, like you said, Jin Boom, you want Gangplank to go off as fast as possible. So just itemized him. But this makes a lot of sense. Is he gonna go for Darius here? Nah, that's
I
just a
mean,
meme. 4 space parts is a
yeah.
meme. Don't do it. Oh, he's doing
Oh,
it.
he's putting it in. Is he gonna put in for the Vi? You've got a Darius too with Ionic Spark just kind of trolling around. I don't know. I don't know about that. He's keeping those space pirates though.
Yeah, I like it.
All
I,
right.
I mean, 4 space pirates is completely viable. You just have to go to 9.
Yeah, sure.
And he has the health for it. He has the health.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's a great point that you bring up that his health is so high because if you go for Space Pirates late game, you can tank, 30, 40 HP. But if you pick up a bunch of items to make your next rounds that much stronger, then maybe it's worth it to put in the Space Pirates for a little bit in the late game. The long play,
Yeah.
right?
I just find it funny that he pulls like Thresh pulls in Darius just to go off for one ult, but he dies right before he does it. So just
That's
kind of
the
a
life
meat
of Darius
shield.
too, with no items.
Nope.
Oh, that Zephyr is pretty high priority for everybody that's left here, which is everybody.
Zephyr has surprisingly become less important for people's first pick now because I think people are really good at playing around it, and also because there's a lot of QSS still in the metagame. So
Sure.
you have to, yeah, but at the same time, it's still very good. So it's just not as auto pick as it used to be.
Well, it's going to be another
Wow,
IE or another
I
IS rather
can't
for
believe it.
Inay.
Another Ionic Spark. Although I guess Ionic Spark's pretty weak late game if you don't have the specific carry that can use it, like a Gangplank.
Sure.
So that makes sense. But I mean, it's kind of funny that that's the item that I think Inay wanted and he got it.
Well, you can put one in the front line, one in the back line. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
onboarded DarkHydra, who grabbed that Zephyr. We'll see if it does him any good.
Yeah.
But
Giant
right
Slayer
now,
on a KO. This is pretty much the state of Dark Hydra's game. Not ideal and has to
yeah,
play, the best board he possibly can. Looks like he didn't hit. This is looking more like my KO games when I play KO.
the KO
But
one
at the
with the
same
Giant
time,
Slayer. That's a little
yeah,
bit
I'm not
sad.
gonna pretend like I'm some godlike KO gamer.
Should put that in your Twitter bio, man. Godlike KO gamer.
I'm gonna miss Kale. I think she's really cool. I like the way that she's implemented in set 3 compared to set 1. Set 1 Kale felt really oppressive with the
Yes.
invincibility stuff, but this set's Kale feels very rewarding because you have to understand the weaknesses of her, and if you like play her well, she does like in the hands of a good player, Kale's effectiveness amplifies
Mhm.
exponentially.
Don't worry. Timo is coming to replace her.
Oh yes, the hero that we don't deserve, Timo.
Yep. You get the Bard in there for your
Yeah.
Astro synergies. Yeah.
So at
But
what point, if Dark Hydra is able to survive this stage, which looks like he's likely, 14 health is still, unless you lose very badly by like 5 to 6 units, you're likely to survive.
yeah, sure.
At one point, uh, does Dark Hydra start to just cycle things like his Zephyr, like sell his Lulu, play another Lulu, and play another Zephyr? That's obviously not something that he needs to worry about for a stage or two here. But I think if I'm in his position and look at how close the lobby health is outside of Inay, Inay's just dumpstering everybody he fights. Everyone else is like 20
Oh,
health or lower.
that's a lot of damage. And Dark
Yeah.
Hydra lives with 3. Like you said, it's not quite early enough for him to die completely to something like that. Finds a death
Okay.
cap.
That's
Huh.
not bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much always find use for a death cap in a lot of comps.
I mean, if you can
Uh,
get Kale too, it's great on Kale.
yeah, Aurelia can make pretty good use of it as well. Um, but
Yeah.
it's looking a little bit rough.
Yeah, the real rough thing is Dark Hydra has like items dedicated to a 1-star carry. Like also
Yeah,
even the fact that Wukong has all these items, it's kind of like what you were saying. I really could make use of it if, say, for example, you gave her the Ionic Spark, the GA, and the Death Cap, but it's just too expensive to replace that Wukong right now.
right. I'm wondering if maybe
Misfortune
you.
2. Okay,
Ooh,
hold on.
huh?
Now, do you like replace this Kale, put the
Yes,
items on MF instead?
I think you do. That's I think even though, or if you don't hit a Kale 2 right now, which it doesn't look like. Oh,
Oh, it's
ooh,
so close. He has to sell something in order to get it.
he's got 3 HP. You got to make a decision,
Okay.
man. But then it would be
Uh,
1 unit less.
no, it's
I
too
think it's
hard.
too late. Yeah. All right. Well,
Well,
this is one of those so close but yet so far. But he is playing a Crvor who is way down in HP along with him. 12
right.
HP for him.
Yeah. And he'd end up Dark Hydra did end up going for the Zephyr swap by selling his Lulu on the board and going for it. And it looks like it's paying off that misfortune too, going for big damage.
Yeah,
And now
MF2.
KL1 is able to chop down very safely, and she's still gonna put out a lot of damage here.
Well, MF2 popping over open the mech helped a lot. And yep, that MF ult will actually give him the win and send Crvor out in 6th in this game.
Yeah.
So Clutch finds the Kale 2. Now he was able to lock the shop and hold on to it. So suddenly some new life
Dang.
being breathed into Dark Hydra.
Yeah, so Crvor can't really follow up his performance. Sees another Kale 2 by Natures with double death cap. I mean, that's really scary because Natures also has a misfortune too, and that just looks like the better version of DarkHydra's comp. So he has
It
to,
does.
if he can win one more fight decisively against either third or fourth place, DarkHydra's going to sneak into top four, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah, he wants to play against Natures or Higa, and then he wants to win. Finds Natures, but like we just mentioned, it's
Mm.
kind of the better version of his comp in a lot of ways. So we'll see if that ends up being true. But man, the MF items alone are just way better.
Oh, that
Oh
trap
no.
claw stuns Kale for so long, but the Lulu
Oh,
polymorph is huge.
yeah. Was there a Lulu on the other side? That's what I didn't notice. There is a MF2 though now. I mean, it was there the entire time.
So
Oh,
close.
the Kale! The Kale actually comes through.
Wow.
Dude, Guardian Angel. I'm telling you, it's still my favorite defensive item. Wins you so many fights.
It's great. And this double Zephyr, double GA just gives him a lot of fight longevity. And also, the most important thing is it drops aggro in certain scenarios that can otherwise wipe out your carry. As you can see, the difference maker, right? That Trap Claw
Oh
stunned
yeah.
the Kale, but Nature's couldn't capitalize on it because his Misfortune already ulted. And so when it came down to a 1v1, I mean, in terms of raw power, it's hard pressed to find a better 1v1 unit than Kale or an
Yeah.
Irelia.
You know, the funny thing is that aside from Inay, this lobby was actually really close. DarkHydra jumping all the way up from basically last up into third now.
Oh. He's
Decent
Zephyr
Zephyrs.
the Xerath, and the Xerath doesn't get to cast immediately. That's a pretty big deal, but is it enough?
Well, MF Alt finishes him off. Looks like he might win
It's
this.
so
That Jin,
close.
though. That Jin is so strong. Lulu Alt comes through, but you're going to need actual damage. Oh, this Kale. I think he's got it. He does. Dark
Wow.
Hydra, again, by the slimmest of margins, winning, and he makes it into second place. Can he take down the juggernaut that is Inay,
Unbelievable.
though?
Another death cap. That's a huge opportunity for him. He missed out. Oh, never mind. He missed out on the QSS for his misfortune. That would have also
Yeah.
been really big too. But hey, second death cap, not a bad exchange at all.
Is there any hope of beating Inay, though?
I mean,
That's
yes,
the
there always
problem.
is. But what can he do to improve his board dramatically? Not really much, to be honest.
No, not a
Uh,
whole lot.
Lulu 2. I mean, so Rocket 2 is great as well, but the problem is that when that Gangplank casts, your whole front line dies, and
Yeah.
Kale without a front line is not going to be a Kale fighting for much longer.
Yeah, I think that's really the crux of the issue, right? Is it Inay's got everything, right? He's got the GP2,
Mhm.
he's got all the big items, he's got a Thresh pulling in another Jace and a Soraka and a Lulu. I don't know
Yes.
how you beat this.
I mean, it's the four space
Oh.
pirates too. He keeps getting items. Look at that nuke from Gangplank. Oh, okay,
Oh, he
okay, okay.
loses though. He loses the round. But yeah,
Yeah,
now it's time to swap the space pirates out, maybe. When it see,
yeah.
this is what I'm talking about, where you can burn, like 30, 40 HP, get some items, then come back for that really strong last couple rounds.
I mean, he got another Rage Blade, so
Yeah.
yeah. I get this double Zephyr is also like sometimes hitting and sometimes missing. And when you start factoring two Zephyrs with the fact that one's on your carry and one's on your frontliner, these micro battles become so important. And the most also another thing to focus on are where the Mana Reaver's hitting.
Right.
He's
Very
spreading
good
them
point.
out so that way he can hit Gangplank. And this Irelia, where's she gonna immediately target? Oh, he
Oh, this
lands the Zephyr.
GP. The
That's
GP gets
huge.
Zephyr'd. That is insane. I
Oh no, Kale's drawing aggro from Jin though.
was gonna
That's
say
really
sometimes it means the
bad.
GP just gets a better ult, but not in this case. He
Oh
got wrecked.
god.
And Inay from 79 HP down to 45 already.
Okay.
And man, when we started looking at Dark Hydra in this game, that was not the player I would have picked to get first. That is not the player I would have picked to get fourth. But here we are where he's got a shot.
There's so much going on in these positioning. Where's Zephyr landing? Where's the Mana Reaver, especially Cassidon, going to use his disarm? How are the carries positioned?
Yeah.
And also, how can I best maximize utility units like Lulu so that she can get her polymorph off, if at all? It's so complicated, and you look at these players, they're not even necessarily getting them right a lot of the times because they're just kind of approximating all of these different things, and that's what makes these
Right.
1v1 duels really exciting. And if DarkHydra makes this comeback, this would be one of the more impressive comebacks I've seen this set.
Absolutely. Starting a 1v1 at 3 to 79, if you can win that, that is an insane 1v1. But it's so tough because the mind games are all about, like, oh well, I'm moving. It puts the Thresh in. Yeah, pull the Zoe in for the CC. Why not, man? but
Sure, yeah, better than a Sona, I
okay.
guess.
So I like this. Inay just taking everything off the board. So it's really hard. DarkHydra basically just has to go for random positions here. What does he find?
Gameplay
He
went in the
gets the
corner, and he
GP.
caught him! Inay
What?
with a, last-minute swap trying to be clever may have
Yeah.
actually outplayed himself, although
Oh, this MF though.
oh,
You played yourself, Inay.
yeah. The I was kinda thinking Gameplay
Oh
might still get
no.
the ability off, but he didn't. Just as he was about to
uh,
raise his pistol to call down the strikes, he'd end up getting blown up.
yeah, gonna shoot up that flare. He's is he pretty close to a GP3 actually? Did I see that right?
Oh my goodness. I we haven't been watching. Is it possible to swap POVs here and maybe get a little glimpse just for a
He's
few seconds?
I know he's got some extra ones. Okay, so he has
Yeah,
5 GPs,
it's 5
6
GPs.
GPs.
Another GP.
Oh boy. Inay,
Okay.
if he can hit GP3, can he hit it before he loses
Yeah.
though? We'll see. All right, where
But
did
I
the
mean,
Zephyrs land? Oh, he got him again. I think
oh
no, he got
boy,
the
he got the
thresh.
Thresh. The Thresh can't
Okay.
pull the second GP, which actually might actually be really good because
Oh, he
he gets to
does.
cast maybe faster than the first one. He does.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a lot of GP
Oh,
alts. All right. Well, there. It was fun. It was a good 1v1, but Inay
yeah.
takes lobby number 2, nearly finding that GP3, but that was a fun one.
Yeah, I think that's so funny when it's like you have your carry itemized or like your legendary ready to go, and then Thresh pulls them off the bench and they ult faster. Like I've had that
Yeah.
happen so many times with Lulu where I'm like positioning Lulu, intercept infiltrators, and then like have like a mana item on her, but then like maybe a shroud comes down, and Lulu gets tagged, and then like Thresh pulls in Lulu and immediately ults. I'm like, I
Well
should have just kept both Lulus on the benches here.
well, that's the thing is if you have the choice between putting a Thresh and a Lulu, if you're not talking about synergy, if synergies are not a part of this decision making, sometimes it's better to put the Thresh in so that he can
Mhm.
pull the Lulu in. And like you said, you'll get an ult faster from the Lulu that way.
Yeah. And it also looked like at the end, Inay decided to stop messing around and just start playing like the
Yeah.
non-space pirate stuff because you get
Hey.
better synergies. You don't need Darius 2 and a Graves 1 at the end of the
He did
game.
exactly what I said, which is put the space pirates in when you're ahead in the 1v1 to get the items. Swap out when you need to win. Well played, Inay. He's gonna
Yeah.
get first in lobby two. That bumps him up to third on the day overall at
Yeah.
14. Natures though, with solid results, a first and a fourth for him on the day, and Dark Hydra very consistent, a third and a fourth, or a
Right.
third and a second rather.
Super impressive to get second and third back-to-back games, especially because I think he was on KO1 deep into stage 5, and yet
Yeah.
like those are situations, and you know that he was living with 3 HP. And you know, when people say like, "Oh, I lost by like 1 unit," not really gonna be that big of a deal. Like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
left a unit up with like 10 HP." If that happened 1 or 2 more times, DarkHydra would have gotten probably like a fat 7th,
Oh yeah,
but
he
he was
literally
so close to dying.
he was in seventh when we looked at him for the first time, and that MF2, I think finding that 6% chance MF2 was really kind of the game changer for him, and allowed him to get into the top four, and then eventually number two.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
So, with that, I mean, it looks like Nature's and Inay holding it down for NA, and then you saw, DarkHydra holding it down for you, and that's your current top 3.
yep, that is correct. So two lobbies down. Want to shout out again to juke.gg for sponsoring the Giant Slayer series. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. Again, exclamation point. GSS in chat means you can find all the player POVs. If you just want to watch Inay for the entire game next time, see the shenanigans with the space pirates, whatever, you can do that. In the meantime, though, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the last two lobbies of the day. Don't go anywhere, guys. Giant Slayer series will be coming back at you after this. Welcome back to Giant Slayer series, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the delay, but we are coming right back with our next lobby, and it's been interesting so far. We've seen a lot of crazy stuff, but we've also seen in 2 games now, 2 players go from relatively low in the lobby all the way up to a number 2 by hitting some of the right things at the right time. Crvor in game number 1, and then DarkHydra in game number 2, making it work. But we've got 2 more games to go. Anything surprise you when you look at that standings list right now, Frodan?
Uh, Probably Sphinx being at the very bottom with Higa. I think these two players are still very good, top 20 challenger players and able to obviously play way higher than the results are showing. But I mean,
Yeah,
at
for
the same
sure.
time, it's really tough because we've seen this happen before where like some really good players come into Giant Slayers or other TFT tournaments and then just kind of bomb out. So I'm looking to see if Higa and Sphinx can turn it around.
Yeah, and even if that doesn't happen today, we've still got 3 more weeks of competition between all of these players too. So one bad day doesn't necessarily make a bad week. One bad week doesn't necessarily make a bad tournament. So everyone on this list is going to have a chance to come back, even if they have a little bit a rough start as far as today goes. So we will see. But I really want to see the Jin build work one of these games because I've enjoyed playing snipers pretty much all of set 3. It's had its ups and downs, but this new build, the Jin Boom or the Korean Jin build, really excites me because it gets me a chance to play some of the champions I really enjoy. So I want to see it do well in this, so I can validate myself trying it on the ladder.
Well, I mean, it just kind of did work, right? Like we saw
Yeah,
the win with Inay taking it the home W. Do you need more proof? Is that what you're looking for?
it was too much space pirates.
What? I thought you would
I
love
don't
it.
know.
I'm
I don't know.
so confused right now. That's so interesting. I think the Jin comp is still very good. Like it was the reason why he was being able to go so deep into the late game because he had such a powerful early game with that Jin build, and that's why he kind of messed around and then like kind of threw away 50 HP and decided to win the last round.
Right. For some reason, my mind blanked on the last game already. But forget that. We're going on to game number 3. It's going to be the reroll Galaxy Trade Sector and on board with Sphinx, which we
Yeah,
saw a pretty normal carousel.
Sphinx, player that first game he played a Void Brawler, ended up getting sixth, which was pretty bad relative to what I thought that composition would be able to do. But he didn't really hit any 3 stars whatsoever
Mhm.
because we know that it was being contested by other people who were playing it. I think Sunny was playing the other Void Brawler composition, and
Could have been, yeah.
then in the previous game, it looks like Sphinx played a Rebel reroll, but got eighth with Ziggs 3 and Malphite 3. Hate to see it.
Wow. Uh, wonder what the items were. That sounds like an item issue.
2 Seraphs on Ziggs,
Oh,
Guardian Angel on Gangplank.
well, it could have been a number of different things. Sometimes you do take a lot of HP damage if your positioning is a little bit off and you have some, really one-sided losses here and there. So hard to say, but you can go to his Twitch stream and maybe go watch the VOD later and find out.
Yeah. So with that, he has 2 Kazakhs early on, and we've seen him play Void Brawlers before, and we see a lot of Void Brawler just on ladder and people playing it.
Yeah, it's one of the more forcible comps out there right now, which is why you probably see, at least like 2 people in every lobby, at least in my like high diamond lobbies anyway, play it. But in a tournament situation, you really need to be playing it to perfection to make it work. But Sphinx seems to be kind of gearing towards that. He's got a couple items that can be useful
There you
for it.
go.
Hey,
Yeah,
finds the Kazakhs too. All right.
reroll galaxies are pretty volatile because sometimes it feels like you hit your 2 stars so quick, and then for the rest of the stage 2, you don't find like another one of them. So you're like, okay, I'm
Right.
gonna start trying to go for a Kazakhs 3, but maybe like in this case, he finds only one Kazakhs despite rolling, 6 or 7 times throughout that stage.
Yeah, you never know. There's another one so
Oh,
far. This is looking really good, actually. If he does
it's
want to go
looking
void,
great.
the
It's
Twisted
looking real
Fate
good.
too is really nice to hit early since that's a part of the build later on.
Yeah.
Or it can be in the mid game. It kind of just depends on, if you want to work in some more brawlers. Have you hit all your voids? Like TF2 is a pretty useful piece of this for a lot of the game.
Yeah, just best board. That's pretty much it. So,
Sure.
Malphite 1 is less tanky than a Twisted Fate, but seems like he ends up putting the Malphite in anyways at the
Hmm.
very last second there. And there's a couple of different reasons why you can maybe explain that, which is one, you do need some kind of tank, right? Because even though Twisted Fate has more health, is it more effective than having a Malphite? And actually, I don't even know if Malphite actually has less health than Twisted Fate because he does gain that shield at the beginning.
Well, that's the thing. Effective health from the shield might be pretty even, and then you've
Right.
got higher defensive stats too.
Right. I'm just
So
comparing like baseline HP, which is not the proper way to always evaluate things.
yeah, because you have to think about like the armor and stuff as well. He's leaving himself open for
Mhm.
well, maybe do you want the Jarvan too? All right. I
Yeah.
suppose it's probably better than a Malphite one. I
Yeah. You
wonder if the
you
infiltrators jump back if they're close enough to benefit from the standard.
you can be if you
Probably.
just have to position them on the same side. So like
Yeah.
Jarvan, for example, if he goes front center, you put these infiltrators near the center as well. You wouldn't want them to spread out too far, otherwise Jarvan can
Mhm.
buff it. Looks like Sphinx going a little bit farther off, but they're going to consolidate. So when
Right.
Jarvan throws this, they should gain the attack speed. And Jarvan
Mm.
2, I know you're not a fan of it necessarily. I think Jarvan 2 is actually still very solid as a unit. You just have to make sure, obviously, you position him well, and also that you have like the right type of itemization if you want to capitalize off of his effect.
I mean, I think he's fine as a unit. I think he's not so great as your team's soul tank at this point in the game. And yeah, you're immediately going to replace him in this case. I think Jarvan too is fine if you have literally nothing else as far as the tank goes. But
Damn, man.
even
All
as you
right,
can
I
see,
see.
yeah, a blitz one will do better, especially with the buff there. But yeah, so I think Jarvan's a strong unit. I just think he's a bad tank.
Okay, that's fair. It's
So gives
definitely
up
not the best
infiltrator.
tank.
Yeah, gives up infiltrator for Chrono. Probably the stronger buff right now, and it gets him another 2-star worked into it.
Yeah, Chrono Brawler is pretty insane. Still to this day, my favorite early game synergy to play
Hmm.
in set 3 right now because I just think it's so versatile. And if you think about it, what is Infiltrator trying to do? It's trying to give you attack speed, and Chronos actually gives you attack speed. So
Yep, very true.
fairly similar across the board.
Yeah, DarkHydra takes a shot, and Sphinx is looking to put together a pretty solid early game. Uh, as far as his carousel positioning goes, I wonder what he's going to find.
Well, he
Probably
has a
looking.
vest, and again, I do think Guardian Angel is my highest priority item onto Kha'Zix. And if he chooses not to, another thing you can start doing is just start to build items for Vel'Koz. So picking up that tier also wouldn't be a bad idea either. But although he doesn't have a completed item, that's the problem.
Yeah, I think there's also kind of the consideration of is it trade sector? So is he planning on 3-starring the Kazakhs? Which, if that's the case, maybe the items get funneled a little bit more that way because he can be such a big carrier once you get like the IE on him and the Rage Blade or the RFC rather.
Yeah, I'd be kind of surprised if he ends up fully prioritizing the Kha'Zix right now, but because he doesn't have necessarily like all the best items for it, except for Guardian Angel. That's like the best, I
Yeah.
think, in my opinion. Of course, it changes.
On board with Crvor now, as we see in what way is he going to try to go mech infiltrator this game? Because that seems to be the plan again today. And he already has the Kaisa too. He's got the chain vest on Poppy. So he's got like half of a lot of items you want.
Yeah. Crew's already kind of established that he's just going to play mech. And it looks like once more he's just going to play mech no matter what.
I wonder what happens when him and Kiyun get in a lobby together. It's going to be interesting because if you look at Kiyun's profile on ladder right now, he's playing a bunch of different stuff. He's still playing
Oh
more mech
yeah.
than anybody, of course, but he's also playing just all of the normal comps as well. So it's not quite the mech only account it was, a month ago.
It makes me happy to see because I think a lot of people were looking at players like Kiyun's results and saying that he's not as good at the game compared to some other players just because he's playing mech a lot,
Sure.
but he's clearly demonstrating his proficiency and understanding at a high level that maintaining rank 1 while playing and streaming for extensive hours every day, while also playing a bunch of different compositions.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
my
And
different
even
opinion,
when he was playing a lot of mech as well, he was definitely like the best at it in terms of positioning correctly every single round. Eking out little wins when you normally wouldn't see a player with the comp that he had wins. So yeah, definitely a player that has a lot of my respect anyway.
for
But it
sure.
is cool to see him play a little bit more variety.
Yeah, this is kind of nasty here for Crvor. He went up against someone who's level
Yeah.
5, and he's going to snap his win streak. Going in with no win streak into the Krugs round is a little painful, but it's okay because he hit 30. So he at least has a healthy economy going into it. Would have been way better, though, if he was able to land that 3 win streak to get that 2 extra gold, because it would have landed him a very neat 40, and then he would have been in a really good spot.
Yep. As is, he'll have to just sit and hope for the right items here. Going to try to take the Terror Bursters out at level 4, but given that he's got 3 2-stars, he should be able to. Oh, he's actually going to go ahead and level. All right. Yeah, if you're at 38, why not, right? Why not play it safe? It's funny, when he was on my show the other day, we were talking about this a little bit, and he was like, I'm still so afraid of the Terror Bursters. And the fact is, everybody is. Everybody's lost to these guys, and you just don't want to take the chance. You don't want to get those pings, you know?
Yeah. We've seen it actually happen on Giant Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty embarrassing. You don't want that to happen. All right, so more half items for crew or outside that bramble vest. Can at least put the tier on Kaisa. That's a start. But looks
That's
like he's
something.
taking his free reroll and seeing nothing so far. So probably just going to be chilling for a little bit of time here as DarkHydra with the roll down finds Twisted Fate 3. I think we could probably go to a different POV here because it seems like Crvor is going to be powering up for a while as
Yep.
looks like other people getting online with some
He's
of
going to
their
be doing the
rerolls.
regular mech thing. I'd be a little bit curious to see what Inay's up to. Otherwise, DarkHydra is fine as well. We'll see where we end up. Meanwhile, looks like it's
Ooh.
a little bit of a Space Jam-esque start for
Boys,
Agon.
yeah, he's got a Space Jam start. He's got Kale on the bench with the Death Cap and a
Yeah.
bunch of Celestial stuff. So looks like Agon's staying pretty open, but at the same time, you're probably gonna have to commit soon because that's a lot of eco on his bench that's not currently on the board.
When you start losing rounds like that too, you're like, all right, well, it's time to make a change for sure.
Well, I mean, he's got like 25 gold on his bench, so he's gotta use that. Otherwise, he's just gonna continually hamstring himself for the rest of the game.
Right? Another Poppy too for Crvor. Now he's kind of wondering, all right, do what
Should I
build am I
play
really going for here?
Candyland?
Yeah, exactly. Like, do I swap the
Yeah.
Candyland here? There's a TF in the shop? You could do it, but at this point in the game, you're usually starting to think about going, 2 Vanguards, 6 Sorcerers. So he's a little bit behind in terms of making that swap. But who knows? Maybe the 2 Poppy 2s is a bait. But you can tell he's thinking about it.
He's thinking about it, and I think he still has a lot of time to pivot because the most important thing about playing a Candyland Poppy build is, well, Poppy. You don't
Sure.
have to get Zoe to 3-star. You don't have to get Twisted Fate to 3-star, even though obviously it'd be great. Um, and also, he could totally just kind of still chill and play 2 Poppies for a while. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
never mind. Found the early fizz, and
We,
I just
we
got to
found
track down
another
that Rumble.
Poppy.
Yeah, that is. Oh, he skips it
Uh,
though. All right. So no Candyland here.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. But he's gonna need to find the rumble, otherwise that early fizz is not gonna be anything meaningful here.
Right. On board with Inay now, and he's got a couple protectors and infiltrators put together. Interesting opening build for him.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, this is pretty unusual here.
Yeah.
Inay going for just like again item slamming and win streaking, playing like early game Nico 2 and protectors and whatnot.
Right.
And so, he's gonna be able to save a ton of HP, even if he's not gonna win the fights, even though it looks like he's favored to win here.
This is kind
And
of the epitome of playing your strongest board for as long as possible, because you would almost never see these 2 synergies paired together.
yeah,
But with the amount of 2-stars he's got, why not?
I'm a little surprised he's not picking up this Jin because it seems like something that he has played for a while. Rageblade isn't exactly go on Jin though, so I
Yeah,
think he's looking purely for Kale if he can get it.
you'd imagine. See what he ends up with the carousel. DarkHydra grabbing the bow.
Think
Stunning
he
loot
had a
glove.
vest open, so if so, I would imagine he'd want to take sword for Guardian Angel, but he's last pick, so he doesn't really get many options.
Yeah, you kind of take whatever's left over at this point. Which is probably going to be a rod. Well, if he gets a sword, that's crazy, actually. And he will. There's two swords left.
Yeah,
When's the last
two
time you saw
swords.
two swords last to the end of a carousel?
It's pretty rare, but it does
Yeah,
seem like people are prioritizing compositions that have a lot of AP because of Rebels and Ziggs being good, because of obviously the Void Brawler needing like a bunch of AP items for, or less just caster based items for Vel'Koz.
sure. Oh, there's a kale.
Wow,
Puts it in right
huge. Oh,
away.
wow. I apologize. It wasn't a vest, it was a belt, but still pretty solid to get that sword because it's, it's the building block for GA. And I think
Mm,
that's also another interesting thing is that I've seen a lot of people take like another rod in that position because maybe they want to finish like Morello Namicon to give it to Kale. But I think that overall the sword is just more flexible.
right. A lot of times, kale's going to be DPSing people down so fast that the Morella's effect almost, doesn't really do a whole lot in terms of the burn. Like the anti healing is still good, but the damage she does is so quick that, it's not as effective of an item on her, I suppose.
Right.
Maybe you'd even put it on like the Nico in this case if that's what you ended up with. But I think he'd rather turn that into like a Trap Claw or a Zephyr or something like that. We'll see.
Yeah, seems like Inay is in transition mode because he purposefully made his board weaker, playing like a Shen 1 for the third Blade Master and putting in a Kale 1. So his board is getting weaker, but because he's found direction, he's just going to go ahead and stay on this for a while.
Right.
Another thing to consider too is that he's positioning double backline because of the prevalence of infiltrators. I think a lot of people would just start to kind of autopilot and pocket Kale. When we mean by pilot is you put your front line all in the front row, and you put Kale like to the side on the wall once Hexagon back,
Yeah.
and then there's a couple of like blitzcrank fodder in the very back line. And I like that he's going for double back row because there's so many infiltrator players. This has a high chance of keeping Kale healthy.
Yeah. There are so many Kazakhs too in the lobby right now. A lot of Kazakhs Kaisa combos. Dark Hydra takes a pretty big hit, but Dark Hydra, I believe, is one away from a Kazakhs 3 right now, and he already has a Cho'Gath. So probably the player that is closest to putting together a strong Void Brawler comp.
Yeah. Okay. Finds Wukong. That's really important. So now you can put Chrono online. Doesn't have another Vanguard though, so probably gonna have to run with this for a little bit longer. It's not ideal when your front line is purely Rakan 2 and Nico 2, but
Yeah.
hey, sometimes you got to make it work.
Yep. It is. It is tough. It's not the most durable front
Yeah.
line, that's for sure. We'll see what the items point him towards. There's another sword. Oh, okay. So he
Okay,
kindled Morello's then.
Morello. Another thing
Morello's.
worth considering is actually Zeke's. I know people don't really want to build Zeke's ever on a Kale. However, I have seen it used pretty effectively. So you could consider that and keep your items open.
I like the Zeeks actually. I think new Zeeks is really strong. That big of an attack speed buff is almost something where you can maybe sub out the Chrono early on and rely on the Zeeks for a little while. But it's going to be the sword for Kale instead. I wonder if he wants to turn that into possibly a GA later.
Yeah, GA is still probably the higher priority,
Yeah,
and in the worst case, as like the absolute worst case, you just make like a damage item thing like IE or Deathblade.
right.
Um, I mean, we saw Giant Slayer Kale go all the way to top two, which of course everyone knows Giant Slayer is the most OP item in the
Of course. No relation at all to this tournament.
game.
Just
Yeah.
Frodan's opinion.
Oh,
Another
another
Kale.
Kale.
Hmm.
So this makes me think that Inay, if he picks up the second Kale, does he was playing on fast aiding, but yeah, if you told me that like it's correct to roll a little bit here, like soft rolling down to 40, I'd believe you.
Is it
Because
really?
there's
What are your chances though?
well, funny you
15%.
bring that up because there's been so many statistical simulations being done right now and posted on the competitive subreddit, posted in
Right.
discords, posted on social media. And it's like there's a lot of debate right now. People are saying like, well, no, your highest chance to get four costs reasonably is at level 8, so you should fast 8. And people are saying, well, if you are uncontested, this is like the math of how many rerolls you need to get. And also just got to think about preserving life because
Mhm.
that is Inay's playstyle. The good thing is that Inay still is pretty healthy, but if he goes fast 8 and still doesn't hit, he's only going to have like 20 gold to roll after this.
I've looked at a lot of those spreadsheets, and they all have good information, but what it all finds the MF.
Okay,
What it
that's
all
huge.
comes down to for me is that there's so many variables in each game that make those stats so much less useful because
Mm.
it doesn't take into account what other people are playing in your lobby. Sometimes it doesn't take into account your HP, like you mentioned. It doesn't take into account just like the other units in your comp, is it worth rolling it down when the rest of your comp doesn't support it as much? So,
Ooh,
I feel like the average player can't really look at those spreadsheets and be like, oh, this is what I should do at this level if I'm looking for this. I think it's a good
interesting.
reference, but you really just have to read the lobby and let your heart guide the way, Frodan.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, there's multiple approaches, and I think that's what ultimately makes games like TFT pretty interesting because clearly different styles work for different players, and therefore you can't say like one way is the only way you should play.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes discussion about this game probably even sometimes more interesting than playing it. Not necessarily that it's a down. We're not trying to down that playing TFT
No,
is
I
more fun
enjoy
than
reading those.
talking about it. Just
It
saying
is
the theory
interesting
crafting in this
info.
game is so fun.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it really reminds me a lot of StarCraft in terms of how much personal style
Mhm.
has weight in terms of how what is the right thing, quote unquote, for you to do in a game. It is
Infiltrator
very fun. It is
Claw?
very cool to
Is he
talk
gonna
about.
take it? Is he gonna take it?
Do
Yes!
it.
I love Infiltrator
Yeah.
Claw. I think that it's
Nice.
become one of my favorite items to play on Irelia. I know Thief's Gloves has become, really popular, of course, is the
Right.
double Infinity Edge builds that play Last Whisper with Irelia.
Quote unquote
Uh,
best in slot. Yeah.
I mean, it's universally accepted that to be that case, but yeah, like you said, it could end up changing, and I think putting that onto Irelia, particularly in this metagame, gives you a lot more options because she is really good at sniping those carries.
Yeah. Well, speaking of space pirates, all four of them online for Agon, but Agon is close to being offline at 34 HP. Can he stay alive?
Yeah,
That is a
I
GP2
mean,
at 4.5.
oh god, it's the H2 build, the four space pirates to a fast eighth.
Yep.
Oh, he's got Gangplank too, though. What the
Yeah,
heck? I
that's what I
mean,
just
if
said. I was like, GP2 at 4.5. What is
that's
this?
nuts.
I know, right?
There's no way. He had to have gotten Nico's help.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely. He
oh,
needs more than Nico
oh.
though.
Oh, just gold. Wait, did he get
Yeah,
a I think he got a cloak as well. Hmm.
actually, I think that was on his bench earlier. I might have been wrong, but I thought I saw it there. Either way, you're not winning with this. It's it's a risk. It's a risk to go for a space pirate. He wants another GP? What? What? What is this game? All right. I mean, if I got that many GPs with Nico's help or not, I can't blame him really, He wants to go Jin
Uh,
Boom. He's got the Jin and the Ash on his bench right now, but I feel like
interesting.
now's the time you got to swap, right?
I mean, Jin 1, Ash 1, not necessarily. Those are pretty weak items.
Hmm.
Or sorry, weak champions just by themselves at this stage. But I mean, the counter argument is it's not like Darius 2 is anything great right now
Right.
either.
He's not winning anyway, so why not?
Well, I mean, the idea, so it's a counterpoint. Why not? Is because he's racking up items here, and there's a chance that he ends up getting like
Well,
Runa's
okay.
Hurricane. He got a spatula just now,
If that works.
and he still has some HP to play with. He gets a glove. I mean, this is great. QSS. He gets a
What?
sword.
All right, never mind. Forget
There
everything
you
I just
go.
said. He just got 3 items from that fight. My whole thought process with that was why, what's the point of getting all these items if you're dead, right? He's at 28 HP, so he's definitely playing with fire no matter how many items he's getting out of these rounds.
Holy
Does
cow!
find the Jace too. So,
Unbelievable.
2 strikes as well, man. All right.
Yeah, now he's got GA and the death cap there. He can now play a Infinity Edge if he wants. He can make a Celestial spat, so he can go 4 Celestials. That's nutty. I can't. That series of item drops was crazy,
Yeah. He definitely
and
got
he's
what he was
still
looking
gonna
for
get
with those face
more.
paints for sure.
He's due for at least another component, maybe 2 components if I'm reading correctly, because a couple of these were dropped from Space Pirates,
Mhm.
and he's a third with
It's a
another
trap
glove.
claw or thieves gloves.
Thieves gloves is
Yeah,
super good. Although, oh my
larger
gosh, larger
area.
area.
Does he have? He has to find the. There it is.
Faster
Faster impact.
impact!
Oh no, this GP. This
Pogs
GP is
champ.
insane.
This is so
Exodia GP
good.
online. I guess the Zephyr would be
Oh
better
yeah.
replaced by a different item, but it's still not bad, not at all.
Oh, he's
So
going for it again. He's so greedy. I love it. I was thinking like, oh, Thieves Gloves is so good on Cassidon. You can go ahead and place it there. Uh, I guess Bloodthirster Trap Claw or IE. Okay, that works. Another Zephyr. Dude, he's just gonna Zephyr like this entire team. That's so funny.
That's the thing that makes this build the scariest, I think, is the fact that you're removing multiple people from your opponent's team early on.
Right.
You just
And
take it out in
yet,
big chunks.
uh, oh, Ruden's Hurricane. This is all coming together. So
Well,
you were underestimating it, but I
I
mean,
I
it's
was,
still
and
got some fight, even if it's not winning this fight.
I don't feel bad about underestimating it. I think I was right in underestimating it because again, yeah, he's got a lot of items, but he's got 19 HP. So even if this ends up working out, I can't recommend this because I feel like 80% of the time in other games for other people, he'd be dead right now, right? Just my
Yeah,
opinion.
you're saying you wouldn't advise you don't want to advise people to play this at home. Yeah,
I think
I can get behind that for sure.
sure. I think for Space Pirates is fun, but I think you have to be ready to accept some top eights if you're gonna do this. But hey, I mean, you're
True.
also gonna have games like this too. So
I mean, it's probably one of those things where the stars have to align. Wow, that Blitzcrank with the Zephyr immediately popping up that Ash and pulling that Jin, but does it
yep.
matter? The Gangplank's about to go in.
Oh,
Two
he's got
strikes plus
so
the
much
faster
damage.
impact.
Yeah. So he's gonna win this round at least.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's
hey, when you
living.
put in more meat, better when you put in better units, it turns out the Space Pirates are a lot better when it's
Yeah.
just Jace and just Gangplank.
But I feel like
Ooh, that
that's the
Zeke's.
intent of Space Pirates is to sort of pillage your opponent's boards and take a bunch of items, and then once you have a bunch of items, you swap to a more reasonable comp and use them.
Yeah, and I think when you get used to playing Agon's play style, you're used to being in this position. Agon's willing to win the game at 1 HP, and everyone else is at like 30 to 40.
Sure.
And that's like really low. And the more I watch Agon play and watch his stream, the more I realize, dude, this guy is greedy.
Yeah, he's a high risk, high reward player, definitely. And
Yeah, but I
Wukong too
mean,
is annoying, but
I really appreciate how flexibly he thinks too, though. He's one of the players that challenges a lot of the conventional thought process of how you should be holding or leveling or ecoing.
mhm. Well, another win, and he's suddenly not in line to take eighth anymore.
I
So
mean, I
the
think he's gonna
comeback
get top
begins.
4 from this outlook, as long as he doesn't get really bad fire energy, or as long as he doesn't low roll the rest of the rest of the units he's trying to fill out.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Another Zephyr, do it! Another Zephyr, do it!
Oh
Yes.
no. Oh no. One of my worst games ever was getting a second place because the guy who took first had 3 Zephyrs and it was just impossible to get everything safe.
Yeah,
It's so annoying. This is an insane board now.
yeah. Triple Zephyr boards are so hard to deal with. They're not even necessarily sometimes super good, because that means that they're like usually lacking other damage items or other meaningful defensive items. And
Yeah.
if you play around them meaningfully, you can reduce the impact of them.
What? He just
Is
gets a
that
free Lulu too?
that's a
Who gets a
double
2
Lulu
Lulu
shot?
shop at 6%?
That's
What is
insanity. Unbelievable.
what is going on? Did he like slip more a couple 20s before this game or something like this? Like what's up?
Maybe. Clearly, Aegon has discovered something that we don't. But
This
his
is a
job's
pretty
not done
insane
yet.
game.
That
No,
was a pretty nutty Lulu shop, though.
he's still got 19 HP, but this is so strong.
Yeah, the Lulu is gonna go off though, and
Oh yeah.
and hit the Kaisa, which is really impactful.
I mean, Lulu too is almost always going to get a chance to ult no matter what's on the other side.
Jeez. And
And
these guys items have been working out really well too for Agon.
yeah,
Crvor taking some pretty big damage here.
I
Sunny's
mourn
out in 8th.
I mourn for whoever plays against Agon for the rest of the game. Yeah, Sunny Lu out in eighth, and the lobby is pretty close actually. There's only 10 HP difference between second and seventh right now.
Mm. Yeah, these guys items less good. So I wonder if Agon is going to try to prioritize disabling the front line, or it looks like he's been trying to hit more of the backline carries. The bottom right seems to be a big hit because there's Jinx there, as you saw. There's a couple of other carries like Kale in that spot.
Right. Well, here's a void build for
Kha'Zix.
Sphinx. All right.
That's a big hit. And now Vel'Koz is the only damage source here while Jin gets to way up from the back line. This is huge.
Pretty good Vel'Koz ultimate. Pretty good two Vel'Koz ultimates actually, but the Zephyrs.
It's too good.
That's really it, right? Is that it's not just the fact that he found the GP2 and the Lulu
Oh
2
my
and all this other
gosh.
stuff. He has 3 Zephyrs. I'm disgusted. Oh yeah.
I mean, so Doa, you were talking about wanting to see Gen Cons win, and you ready to see another one win? I'm pretty much
Yeah.
ready to crown this as the
Right.
winning comp.
But is it really Jin? Is it really the snipers that are doing the work in this one?
I mean, he's doing a lot of it. Gangplank obviously is the carry of this build, but like
Sure.
Jin is the second carry, so I would say it's reasonable to assume that it's like a Jin comp. Jin's
You
really important. I know my people might
hmm.
like look at the boom part of it, but the Jin's like really important to finish off people, and also sometimes just like crit and auto delete certain frontliners.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because Gangplank doesn't actually kill frontliners that well. He actually kills backliners really well, and that's why his circle sometimes is so frustrating if you don't have larger impact or
Yeah.
bigger circle, whatever the upgrade's called. Sorry, just
Larger area, I believe it is.
larger area. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. So he finds the he puts the rapid fire cannon on the Lulu actually, just to ensure that he's getting that ult a little bit quicker.
Yeah, this locket in the front line with the Zera portal, though. You gotta be
I
kidding me
know.
with that. That's so good.
Yeah.
And Lulu immediately shuts down this Kha'Zix.
Oh,
And now the
Kha'Zix.
Gangplank finally deletes the backline. DarkHydra is dead.
Yeah, no kidding. You're not escaping this one. And Agon continues to storm his way up through the standings. I think the secret to doing well in the lobbies today is to be in 7th place and then get below 20 HP and then win.
It's irrefutable evidence based off your proposal here.
My
Another
expert
Lulu.
analysis, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
So the
Lulu.
key
Yep.
here seems to be going to 9 and trying to find a Thresh. I think that's like the ultimate play here because Mana Reaver's a big deal. Look at these items again with these gloves. Not just that, look
All
at
right.
the Jace. The Jace has QSS plus Death Cap. That's so sick.
Jeez. I mean, I love these gloves. I think they're an item that I've actually started to build a little bit more often lately. Obviously, sparring gloves builds into so many really strong things right now, but just having the ability to get those 2 random items on multiple people sometimes can't be underestimated.
Uh-oh. Oh no, Jin died super quick. Lulu gets the ability
Yeah,
off though. But
yeah.
now he's lost
Wukong
a
gets in
lot
the
of his
back line.
damage. This is really bad.
Yep, and
Oh
here's where
no.
GP
Oh no,
is
he
he
dead?
dead?
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
Agon in 5th.
One really
Oh,
bad loss, and
oh,
he's
right
out.
before Inay. Oh man.
Oh, jeez. Oh no, that was the wrong positioning for the mech infiltrator, and it's not always guaranteed who you're going to play. But
Yeah,
wow, does that stink? Because I think that comp was top 2 material at least.
it was good, but it all
Oh,
comes back to being
jeez.
at 19 HP, and like I said, when you go for that 4 space pirate build, you can get all the items in the world and have a crazy board like that. But if your HP is that low from doing it, you're playing with fire, right?
Well, I mean, it's a good point, but also, it's another case to make that Jin's kind of important for that, or the backline snipers are pretty important for that composition because game plan got off and all the
True.
circle stuff happened, but you really need to have some substance to it, which is damage dealing from the backline.
Yeah. I think GP is definitely a lot weaker against the mech as well, because you're
Right,
only
right.
hitting, you're basically hitting like extra HP on 3 minions instead of the actual, units.
Well,
And
Sphinx
Higa,
gonna take down Higa. So
yep,
Sphinx making a really big charge. Higa also finishing third. So two players that I was highlighting early on looks like they're making that comeback. GA on the carousel.
wow.
Well,
Well,
that's pretty nutty.
Sphinx really needed this. He had a pretty quiet game 1 and 2, so being able to take at least second to this game is pretty solid. Crvor with the mech actually looking very solid
Yeah.
himself.
So a while ago, I kind of went like, oh, and it's because Crvor hit like all of his 3 stars in one round.
Hmm,
So that was like a big pivotal moment for him to save that game. Otherwise, it looked kind of doomed for him.
sure.
And now once more, we're going to see this void rolled down. Is going to find any other voids to pair it with. At this stage of the game, you could actually justify taking out stuff to play like a second show too. You could also play like
Yeah.
yeah, like sometimes you see people take out the fizz and just play like another Cho, for example.
Oh yeah, or second Vel'Koz too. A lot in a lot of cases. Either way, you definitely have some wiggle room as far as including extra voids, but it's another build that can suffer against Mech Infiltrator because again, like Vel'Koz isn't clearing the entire enemy team; he's just hitting the mech basically. And so even if he kills the mech, then everybody pops out and has a mosh pit around whoever's left over.
Oh,
So, oh, 2
oh,
HP. It's looking pretty good for Crvor though to take first in
yeah.
game number 3 here.
It's time to roll down even more.
Yep, might as well
Roll.
go all the way.
Lulu is something worth considering because it will intercept some infiltrators, and if she just gets off her ability one time, it would be worth.
Yeah,
Because the thing about Mech Infiltrator is that Kha'Zix actually doesn't really do anything against that. In some ways, you kind of wish that the Infiltrator change to force you to jump no matter what didn't exist because you would rather have Kha'Zix just immediately start attacking other people.
sure, yeah.
So this is definitely like one of the worst matchups for Void, if not the worst. Because just look, Kha'Zix just stuck on the mech. He's not sniping any carries. The carries are all on his back line.
Yep. It's pretty common. Like I mentioned
Yeah.
too, yeah, Vel'Koz just hitting the mech doesn't do as much either. And looks like Crvor is going to be able to take game number 3 here with mech. He does it. Void, once again, though,
Wow.
showing its strength, making it all the way to second place. I think if we can take anything out of these first 3 games, it's that Void has been very strong and Crvor is playing pretty well with mech.
I mean, one of my takeaways as well is that mech is very good, super good.
As usual, yep. It's
Well,
gonna change a lot in the mid-set patch. So, which I'm excited about because and I gotta say I'm really glad, as we look at the standings here and see Crvor has actually taken first place, on the day, Inay at second, Nature's and DarkHydra tied at 18 for third. But, I'm excited about the mid-set patch because there's going to be, I think, more ways to work mech into different compositions because of Void being eliminated, because of Kha'Zix going out, and so it's going to be really cool to see what mech's place in the new meta is going to be once the mid set patch hits.
yeah, I think that you look at how well mechs perform tournament after tournament, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's one of those things where if played well, it's gonna still do well, and you
Yep.
do want that to exist. I think that people might just have viewer fatigue of mech because, if it wasn't mech dominating and Void Brawler was, people also would be rolling their eyes. And if it wasn't that and some other reroll composition was dominating, I think people would
Right.
roll their eyes at that. I think mech gets a little bit of a bad rap right now because I think it's a lot harder to play than people give it credit for.
Oh, totally. It does require like constant vigilance every single turn as far as doing a lot of scouting. Look at what your opponent's boards look like, moving your mech around, moving your carries around. You have to know how to quickly swap your mech from left to right and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot more that goes into it than people give it credit for. But and I just think the synergy is cool to begin with. But it is going to be neat seeing the mech in other situations than just mech infiltrator. And I think that brings a big question about Crvor's future in this tournament up too, where there's going to be a point in this tournament where he's not going to be able to play Mech Infiltrator every game because the patch will have hit and that build will just not really exist anymore. It might, but it will not exist
That's what
in the
you
current
say.
form it's in because no Kaisa, no Kha'Zix, right? So it's going to have to rely on other stuff. There's going to need to be some adaptations. So we will
Right.
see what that'll look like.
Mech
Lilac
will find a
Nebula.
way.
Speaking of things that'll be gone in the
One
midnight
last
patch.
time, yes, before Lilac gets removed.
Yeah. All
Let's
right.
do it.
Who got the Aurelia? Who got the Kale?
Oh, Sunny picks up the Fizz,
Huh.
and we don't actually see Crvor going for it, so
Do you
makes
really
me
need
wonder
is
what's
that
gonna
early though?
happen here. He picked up this early Jhin instead. Is he gonna play a Jhin composition? Is Crvor gonna not play mech?
I mean, I think there's a good argument if you're gonna play mech to not pick the Fizz first because Fizz, honestly, on his own in isolation, is not the strongest forecast when you compare it against what of a lot of other early builds. Whereas if you pick up a Jhin and then you get a Caitlyn, you get snipers early with a couple Vanguards. That's a way stronger way to start the game, even if you are playing grid mech,
Oh,
right? Oh, but there's the good old Warmogs. Cror's face there.
yeah, I think it's
Oh,
universally believed that double belt is the worst item opening that you can have in terms of having the same item twice.
I'd agree.
Um, I think that's a little bit true. I think it's like completely situational, but yeah, Warmogs tends to be less flexible. Belt in general, though, I think does have some pretty good options, right? You can still play a
For
Morello
sure.
early. You can still find opportunities to use Trap Claws we saw, and ZZ Rot Portal I think is still underrated by the community right now.
Even Zeke's early is good, but I agree with your last point, especially that Zezrot portal I think is one of the strongest early game items you can actually build. So I
Okay.
would not be disappointed at all to see him slam that on the Poppy right now. But he's got a sword too, so we'll see what he goes with. Oh
Oh,
well, that's
jeez.
nice. That helps.
So
Sell the
he's
graves, grab
got
the Leona.
like you said, the ZZ Rot Portal opportunity. He also can just kind of play. The problem is he has Jin, right? Like the idea is that you want to utilize this Jin while you have it, so you can play Vanguard Sniper.
Sure.
Jin with the belts. I guess that turns to Trap Claw and nothing else here on him, right?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for just pure early game strength, you have a 2-star Poppy, put the Zezrot portal on it. Don't worry about items on Jin. Sell them later, when you get a chance to build something a little bit better.
Another alternative you can do is play a Giant Slayer red buff, but Giant Slayer has dropped a ton in value in the early game because of the prevalence of 2 Vanguard. It's just too powerful of a
Right.
defensive synergy that shuts down Giant Slayer. So you see people often choose to hold it because there's a threat of Deathblade coming out. He's just gonna jam this Warmogs. What a
Really?
hero!
Wow,
What
okay.
a hero! He's just gonna go ahead and play mech anyways with a Warmogs. All right.
All right, sure. I mean, Warmogs can certainly work with the mech, I suppose, but it's definitely not the strongest item you want early on. Doesn't
Sure.
feel
I mean,
good.
you want defensive items. So
Yeah.
the thing is, he's got 2 belts and he has like a sword. Also, besides one like Titan's Resolve, the comp doesn't want bows either. He's like this is one of the hardest openings to go mech anyways. And so
Yeah.
if Crvor chooses to go for mech, this will be one of the more impressive games I'll see him pull it off if he's able to land the top. He's found 6 poppies and he's already passed by one of them.
The game wants him to play Candyland apparently. He
I
would have had
mean,
7 poppies by now, yeah.
oh,
He's rejecting it though. No Candyland for Crore.
yeah, not a fan of the Poppy 3 apparently.
Doesn't have the sweet tooth, I guess.
I mean, it does. That's right. He's not a lolly. He's not a lollipoppy boy.
I guess.
It kind of sad to see like no one really going for it. I know that it's not generally a good composition at the moment compared to
Mhm.
the other top comps out there, but like when the game is offering it to you on a silver platter where you got 7 poppies by 2-2.
Yeah. I think you definitely do consider it at that point. Uh, I think
All
even
right.
if you do hit that Poppy 3, if you don't have, the Bramble Vest at least, that's the
Yeah.
thing, he doesn't have any of the items that makes Poppy 3 good right now. Warmog isn't gonna cut it, so if you get it and you go for it with these items, you're probably still gonna be losing too much HP in the mid game. Well, this
Look
is
at this
exciting.
puppy go. It's gonna take out maybe one more unit before it dies, or is it gonna just be a raw
Uh,
tie?
I think it's just a draw, right? No, the shield.
Hi!
That's a draw.
Oh, unbelievable.
Oh, and he fights a Leona too. So that's he's got the two-star vanguards. That's great.
Right. So the problem with going Candyland right now is that if you get the defensive items, it feels like you should go for mech
Oh yeah, for
because they
sure.
Poppy uses the same items. It's like Bramble Vest, Dragon's Claw, Ionic Spark, Death Cap. Like these are all like things that you can put on Poppy, and
Right.
they're all very good.
Well, I believe last game we even saw him go for a Vanguard Sorcerer start as well, because that's another way where you can have, like your Ari hold your Kaisa items and stuff. So, yeah, Poppy can definitely be sort of the mech item holder for a while.
Yeah, and that's often like what you see people do as like a backup build if they're trying to just play if they're trying to do like set play, which is have a
Sure.
couple of builds in mind but pivot based off what the game develops.
Yeah. Well, looks like he's gonna win this round at least.
Yeah. And honestly, Poppy 2 with Warmogs does really well. So not really a bad choice to slam at all, and just using it to get some early game HP and win streak. But
Yeah.
he drew that second round, which messed everything up.
Nothing wrong with that, I suppose. Or nothing wrong with at least saving HP anyway.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on to check out, I believe, Nature's POV. Yeah, that's right. And he grabbed the sword with a Jace attached to it.
Yeah, nature seems to be a little bit all over the place. He got obviously won that first game and he bottomed to that previous game, so it needs to kind of land a little bit on the higher side in order to finish out his day with the being on top of the standings here.
Yeah. That said, he does have the nice
Oh,
brawler space pirate start,
love
which
it.
is one of the better early game synergies. Double IE on Lucian as well.
Oh yeah, I like this. It's gonna be great if he ever finds an Irelia in his lifetime.
Or if he ever finds a 2-star.
Yeah, it seems like he's committing to the losing streak, hence the Pirates plus Dilution here.
Could be.
He could actually improve his board a little bit, but not by much by adding a Malphite in. But he's purposely trying to lose at this point without losing too badly. If you really want to
Right.
lose, you could just frontline everything.
That's the thing. You have to kind of ride that line where you have to make a combo that's good enough to get some kills, but not all of the kills.
Oh my god, he might actually
Oh.
win.
Yep.
Oh jeez. All right,
Whoops.
well,
Hey, at least he got some gold.
yeah, it turns out Sphinx also on that losing streak because he was playing a bunch of 1 stars. And those IEs, those Infinity Edges on Lucian, they do work. For
Oh
a
yeah.
while, people obviously prioritized Red Buff and Giant Slayer on Lucian, but the third item that a lot of people should have been considering was Infinity Edge. This is at the beginning of set, though.
Sure.
Okay. So Fiora. So one more for Cybernetics start. Cybernetics is still very good early. I think a lot of people are just playing a lot of reroll comps. So they've been playing Brawlers or Rebels or Infiltrators, Chrono, etc. But
Yeah.
still can't go wrong with a Cybernetics start. And if you're playing PBE right now, Cybernetics looks very good
Oh yeah. With
on
Vayne added
PBE.
in, you can hit 6 a lot earlier.
Yes.
So if he
Um,
finds an Aurelia, that's going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, worth asking too. This is also like several players who are choosing to just sell their first initial unit.
Mm,
Something that you don't actually see very often because Lilac Nebula, part of the core essence of it is that you're supposed to get a unit that you want to build around immediately. But these are 3 players, DarkHydra, Natures, and Crvor, that we've seen right now that's been selling their first unit. And DarkHydra choosing to play Shredder, which is something that I was wondering about. Are we going to see anyone play Shredder? He doesn't necessarily have to go for it, but he is still level 4 going into the Krugs round here.
I mean, I think if you find the Zaya and you find the items early on, Shredder is still a legit top 4 comp.
Yeah.
But as far as selling the 4 cost units from the Lilac Galaxy, I think unless you start with like an Aurelia or a Kale, or I would argue sometimes a Wukong is a good start. Yeah, you probably just do look at it like 4 gold.
Yeah, and I like this level by nature's not being too greedy. I think I see too many people say, I'm just gonna go ahead and if I'm gonna be rolling a 3-1, I'm not gonna spend any gold. But you gotta sometimes make sure you can beat it.
Yeah, it's a little bit too risky otherwise.
Yeah, get some gold. He can actually make gold here by just selling out.
Yep. Could sell like the poppy or something like that, or
Wow.
just get some gold. Why not?
Yep.
All right. Found the early Soraka. Time to go Star Guardians.
Oh,
No,
with double
no.
IE? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
no. That's you. You put them on Lux.
Double
80
IE
carry
Last
Lux.
Whisper Soraka is low key OP. You heard it here first.
That's right. Got to get that RFC though for the long range bananas.
Ah, yeah. Sniper
Yeah.
bananas.
I wonder who the highest attack damage Star Guardian is. I actually don't know that. I feel like it's probably Ari, but I honestly couldn't tell you.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Soraka, just
It might
because
be
tier
Soraka.
4 units tend to have slightly better baseline stats than tier 1.
Yeah, true.
Dude,
All
look at
right
this
then.
Lucian once killing everything.
Yeah.
Well, he got stuck on a Leona, so. But his sprays were like critting everything in the beginning.
Ooh. All right.
So,
Well, got to take some losses eventually.
yeah, and so this is going to be interesting. I hope Nature's is going to most likely roll down here on 6, or at least like he's going to level at the very least. Oh wow, maybe he doesn't have to roll anymore.
No, he found. I mean, he found the Lucian too, and the Darius too. So that should give him a little bit of stability now, especially that Lucian too.
Yeah. I guess you could just put in a poppy here just to give yourself extra front line. But you could also convince me of rolling just down to 40 gold just to just get a little bit more stats onto the board.
If you can find a Chrono, or if you can
Okay.
find a Mana Reaver too, that'd be nice. But no, he's just gonna drop another unit in there and save all the gold he can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the purpose of rolling here on 6 would just be to improve the power of your board here, and he
Right.
already did by finding 2 2-star units.
That poppy with
And
the Bramble Vest and Warmogs. I don't think the Darius is gonna do a lot to that.
yeah, stuck on it, but this Lucian 2
Lucian.
still might end up getting just a little bit too much damage. Hard to say.
I mean, he's got AD against this poppy, but the crits aren't doing anything.
Yeah. No, you're right,
Oh.
because the Bramble Vest.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. All right.
And
Well, Bramble Vest is pretty good against 2 IE Lucian.
yeah, and I mean Crvor does have the annies on the bench, so he is gonna go for that mech. So we'll see if Crvor can once again pull it off.
So he could make his build better right now by putting in the Cassidon, but I think he's kind of content to just taking the loss streak here for now.
It's kind of dicey. So there's a couple of trains of thought where it's like if you lose throughout stage 3 for the first half before carousel, that you should keep losing all the way through.
Right.
I personally am not good enough at my HP preservation, so I usually try to turn it around whenever I can. Just again because I want to try and preserve HP, and that's important for me
Oh
when I'm
yeah.
trying to like go for fast 8 strategies or compositions that require 8 units. Oh gosh, that Lucian just got blown up.
Yeah.
Cassidon is so good. I'm gonna miss him in the mid-set expansion.
Yep. He was good, but he was maybe a little bit too good. Having your entire like frontline disarmed was not that fun sometimes.
You can take this Jin if you'd like. You can take another glove if he wants to try and get the ideal items onto Irelia.
Yeah, looks like that's the case.
Yeah, that can either be a Last Whisper or that can just be straight up Thief's Gloves and can just play double IE on Irelia.
Yeah.
Another thing that's worth noting is that if you do lose into stage 3, you get the first choice of a tier 4 carousel. So like if you found Irelia off that carousel, would have been super good.
Mhm. All right, let's take a look at what Higa's up to this game. He is building up a little bit of snipers, got the Kale going, has that Darius too, just for a bit of dunking action as well. So eventually, looks like kind of transitioning into a Kale build. Most
Yep.
likely.
So Shredder, Mech, Cybernetics, Jin comp. Looks like it's potentially Korea Jin
Oh,
or going for Boom.
yep. Oh boy, that Kha'Zix 3 is going to jump right on. Oh, the Kaling got pulled. You know, the funny thing is sometimes your Blitzcrank can troll your Kha'Zix, where if you have them lined up like that, the Kha'Zix can jump at someone and then the Blitzcrank pulls it away from them and it costs you a couple attacks. Didn't end up hurting Sphinx there, but Something to kind of keep in mind is making sure your Blitzcrank is not pulling your Kazakh's target away from him.
Right. That's why people like having that RFC, so that way that interaction doesn't really happen.
It's a little bit
Um,
easier anyway. He doesn't need to walk as far.
yeah, and it's generally accepted that you should be polarizing your Blitzcrank and your Kha'Zix because people are protecting their Kales like how they are now.
Hmm.
Blitzcrank will pull that Caitlyn, and then Kha'Zix should start to jump theoretically on this Kale, although sometimes it doesn't always work that way.
I think with the infiltrator change where they jump immediately, that's where it gets a little bit funky because it can start attacking the one that's about to be pulled by Blitzcrank.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a slight change, sometimes impactful, sometimes completely destroying your game plan. So you got to be a little
Yeah,
bit more mindful of it, and
well, it's
that's
just one of
why.
those things to keep in mind, right? Where it's like if your opponent only has one person on the side that your Kha'Zix is on, and you know that's getting pulled by your Blitzcrank, then you probably want to move your Kha'Zix.
All right, well, Higa preparing for a level 7. This looks like a pretty mediocre spot, to be honest. Out of all the boards, he looks one of the weakest, despite him being high in health. I think it's largely just because he's had that early game KO, so it's been pretty useful. But he needs to have some help here. And based off the way his itemization has worked out, it looked like he was the one who got KO off the carousel.
I think so. Yeah.
Because you're not really going to be playing just a cloak onto KO at first. Oh, it gets
Right.
a glove, so you can play QSS.
Wow. That's
Sick.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just corner the kale and add on another item later. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that GA on Darius. That's something you can use on something later too.
Yeah, it can go on an Irelia. It can honestly just go on a frontliner. I think that one thing that I learned a lot watching like Sox coach other players on stream was that sometimes people prioritize too many items for like their Kale and not enough on the rest of their front line. So I think
Mhm.
this Redemption and this Guardian Angel, you can very much like tell me that it's not supposed to go anywhere near backliners. It's supposed to be purely on frontliners to give Kale maximum time.
Yep, very true. Now, Kale, does she have enough time? Oh no,
Duh!
Ash
What was
shoots
that
the
Ash
arrow
ult?
right through the middle.
Field goal,
It's
3 points.
no kidding. It's like they got the Ash in all of my games in this game suddenly.
That's
I don't know what it is.
right, my
On
solo
my
queue
my stream
ashes.
can confirm my Ash like never hits anybody.
That's all right, my Cho always decides to ult the corner carry.
We all have our champion kryptonite. Like every player has a champion that they know just doesn't like them for whatever reason.
Mhm.
A little bit of backline rearranging for Higa as he scouts out some of the board. He hasn't hit infiltrators for a little while, I think.
Yeah, this is pretty greedy from Higa. He's trying to go to level 8 with more than half his board being 1 stars, so he is ready to take a beating, and hopefully his backline positioning can give him maximum amount of HP after this battle. But yeah, this is a
Oh,
very crushing defeat here. It's a lot of damage. It goes from 78 to 66, so not nearly as punishing. But yeah, you can't really afford to take too many more losses. His roll down here on 8 is going to need to hit a lot.
yeah. Sometimes you can get kind of like mentally fooled into the position where you're like, oh, my economy is so good and my synergies are so good and my HP is okay, but then sometimes you fail to realize that most of your team is still just 1 stars. So
Oh
at like four
gosh,
something, you're right on the edge of just falling off super hard. Now what do you
this
do?
is bad. His other opponents just hit Kale 2 before him, so his roll
Yeah,
down is going to be a lot weaker. And he's not going to go for it. This is so greedy.
it's a
I
big
don't
risk.
know. I feel like if you're gonna be greedy, at least like have a one-turn rental, maybe throw in this Mordekaiser in.
Sure, yeah.
That's gotta be better than like your third Celestial here.
Yeah,
I don't
sure,
think
just little
snipers really
things.
matters that much.
Right, because you have to win. You have to think about winning individual rounds here right now.
Yeah,
Oh, that's another big loss for Higa.
unless Higa's strategy was to tank HP so that he could pick his carousel, or he just wants to react. But this is really painful. Ouch.
Should be painful. He's just gonna
Yeah.
pre-level, so still
Okay.
planning on going for that fast 8, but let's
Yeah.
see what he
Finds Season
grabs.
Misfortune. That's big, but that's unlikely it's gonna fall to him because he's not even high carousel priority pick here.
Yeah, he's 3rd pick. That MF is already gone.
Yeah. Has an open rod, so probably wants that bow for Rage Blade, so he can put it on Kale.
Yeah, that makes sense. Second Rage Blade for, Kale.
Okay.
So I think he already had 1, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah. Well, the more the merrier with Rage Blade.
Jeez. And Nature's just holding Kales on the bench. So there's 5, 6 Kales pulled out of the pool right now, out of the possible 12.
Hmm.
That's bad odds.
Yep.
All right, here we go. See if the greed pays off. Nope, we're gonna. Just kidding.
Let's check out DarkHydra. He's playing Shredder apparently. Alright. And, yeah, Shredder, a build that has started to fall off a little bit, but it still is very strong. Like, if you hit all your champions, if you hit the right items, whether it's like, IE Last Whisper, even after the nerf, or if it's like a Deathblade Runins on the Xayah, you're still in pretty good shape to top 4 in a lot of games.
Yeah, and he's already got 2 of the important things, which is Xayah with 3-star item, 3-star Xayah with items, and he's
Yep.
got a J4 with the rod. So he's gonna be okay, I think, in the mid game. This doesn't look like an easy like top 2. This might be a top 4 Shredder comp because there is going to be a lot of other compositions that's going to get behind him. I'm thinking about how Mech might be a problem, Void Brawler might be a problem.
I think the big, challenge right now is that the only offensive item he has for that Xayah is the Last Whisper, and it just took a pretty big nerf to where it reduces armor by 75% instead of 90. So only having that item on there,
Yeah, that's
is gonna make
true.
it pretty hard for that Xayah to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's worth just slapping a sword onto the side just to give her a little bit more damage. And
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
wouldn't be
times those
opposed.
components make a small difference, right? Like some people are just like, oh, I'll just put like a rod here. But Xayah attacks so often during battles that even attaching a single BF sword can make a big difference.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of that one item. So ideally, he'd be looking for an Infinity Edge here to pair with the Last Whisper. That's kind of the 2 sort of branches of Xayah building are Last Whisper Infinity Edge or Deathblade Runins. And so if you've got the Last Whisper, probably looking for that IE. You
Yeah,
won't say no to a Deathblade, but still.
yeah, I'm actually I actually read like a little thing about how Deathblade might actually just be better than IE currently. But I mean, right now
That's
Dark
possible.
Hydra doesn't have anything good going on for him. He didn't find his Fiora 3 either. And he's been leveling, so it makes me think that he's gonna give up on the Fiora 3 dream if he finds like a 2-star Irelia.
I mean,
Oh,
Fiora
found
3 always gets
another Fiora though. Okay.
I mean, I guess Fiora 3 always gets replaced by Aurelia anyway with this build. So if you don't, she's like the least important 3-star in a lot of cases.
Damn, you really think so?
Yeah, totally. I think out of like Jarvan, Zaya, Caitlyn, yeah, Fiora is definitely at the bottom of the tier there. I think you want to
Interesting.
replace her
Interesting.
with an Aurelia nearly every time.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I've seen people who definitely feel that way. I also feel like Fiora 3 is very underrated and also uh possibly your second carry in the build. Like a lot of times if you
Really?
play like treasure trove and stuff. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
actually
Okay.
played
So
so
go ahead.
when I was playing my second account, oh my god, I found 8 Fioras.
Hmm.
This is tough. Should he roll or should he level?
I
Yeah, this
think
is a
you.
tough
I think you
call.
level. It's too late to like reliably hit that last Fiora. But so with Treasure Trove, I would agree with you there. I think if you can itemize the Fiora 3, then she's worth it. But in a normal game where she's just not going to get a lot of items, I think you take Aurelia every time.
Well,
But
yeah,
in Treasure
so
Trove, there's an excuse.
the point that I was trying to make was that on Treasure Trove, I think it's like not really a question to like a no brainer. Like I think Fiora is super good because there's a lot of games when I was playing on my second account because I was playing Shredder and I was like, I'm gonna try to like try hard to go to Masters again. So I did, and then I was playing Shredder and I was itemizing Fiora a lot, and she was carrying harder than Xayah in a lot of battles, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then she wasn't even holding like ideal items. So I think Fiora 3 is pretty underrated right
Hmm.
now. Well, not really right now, but like people for a while underrated her a lot, and probably I think if anything prioritized Irelia a little bit too high. So I
Interesting.
think even on normal galaxies, it's worth going for that Fiora 3 because she's really good.
I mean, when I play Shredder, I always pick her up, but if I don't hit it, I'm like, well, whatever, you know. But I'll have
Yeah,
to
and
try it out. I'll have to try throwing a couple items on a Fiora next time,
yeah,
or on
you
the
don't
yeah,
need it, obviously. It's kinda like what you're saying, like, try to 3-star whatever you can. Sometimes you have to give up on Fiora because 'cause you're just not really you have, like, 4 of them, and, you
yeah.
found 2 Aurelias. It's kinda clear what direction you should be going there, but Fiora 3 is, quite a force if you can get her.
If she deflects the right ultimate, yeah. All right.
Wow, double
Well,
IE and, Rage Blade on a KO2. You don't often see that, and it looks like Nature's just wasn't really hitting the Irelia build, so not optimal at all, and, you can really see that build crumble.
that's a
Fiora
bummer. Wow.
3!
All right.
That's huge.
That's good.
If you can just get a Thief's Gloves on her of some kind, maybe, she was just
Yeah.
gonna absolutely slap.
Now he needs to find some items for sure. Sells the Aurelius. All right. Well,
Oh, Shen 2, that's big.
yeah.
We could play Soraka. We don't have another Mystic though. That really stinks. 3
Yeah.
Celestial, 3 Protectors, 1 Mystic.
Ouch.
This is so unsatisfying for
It's
several
kind of
reasons.
throwing in whatever, but yeah, I guess the scary part. Oh, and he runs into an Aurelia too. The scary part is that he's only at 20 HP right now.
Yeah, 20 HP is 2 lives at this point,
Yeah.
and looks like he's gonna be down to just 1 life after this. This is not looking good to make a case that Shredder is still on the menu. He hit all of this relatively uncontested and still struggling.
Yeah. I think not
Deathblade.
hitting either of the strong item combinations for Zaya definitely hurts a little bit.
Oh, if you can get
Could
that Lulu would be huge with the Zeeks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, Sunny Lu picks it up. Trap
No.
Claw maybe? What do you grab here?
Trap Claw is definitely worth considering.
Probably the strongest item. Yeah.
I would also not mind taking Shojin,
Yeah.
because if he rolls down and finds a Lulu, that also could be a useful thing. Also, if he finds an Ashe, you could temporarily put it on Ashe just for a little bit to give yourself some team CC.
Could also be a nice item for Fiora if you don't find anyone else to hold on to it.
Yeah, I mean, Trap Claw is not bad by any means. It's still very
Oh yeah.
solid. Kassadin, finally, 4 Celestials.
Yes. So
Jeez.
this build is now finally more or less online.
A Ashe is good too. And I mean, it's online, but is it too late? Like you're supposed to hit your power spike with Shredder way earlier and then be fighting with much more HP. Now, the moment he loses again, he's dead. Unless
Right.
in the next 2 fights he wins by a unit. That's at least he wins by 1 unit basically. If he loses by 2 units, he's done for. Oh no, this is tough. Huh?
Yeah.
The Rakan is huge though. Gets the big AOE stun, and now the Demolitionist spat. Not that big, not that useful, but looks like he's still getting crushed anyways.
Well, we'll see. The Fizzle does a lot of
Oh
damage. CC, it's gonna be close, but that
wow!
Jarvan is just not killable right now. All right.
Yeah,
Sure. Taking a lot of damage. Mech Infiltrator being pushed to the limits again.
yeah. I thought that the Zai was going to go down when that stun happened, but end up barely surviving. And that Celestial buff, you can see how big that healing was just to restore it.
Right. That's what I was kind of wondering about too. It was a really, really close round actually.
Mhm.
Still in dire straits, still one win away, or one loss away rather, from losing. And there is some strong stuff on the other side. That was a GP in there with the void I saw just a moment ago. All right. So that's the thing. All right. Only a Ziggs won with double Seraphs. What happened here with Agon? He's got a Jinx 2 with only the Runins. I guess he put a lot of items on his Gangplank, but I don't think there was a GA.
Wow. But I mean, Jinx got to reset, and now that
Yep.
is a
That was
loss. I don't think he's
close.
dead, though. I think it's barely alive.
2 HP for
Super close.
DarkHydra.
Nature's out in 6th. Wow.
Okay.
Oh, this locket feels so bad after you had that rod on J4. Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you throw it on one of your other frontliners and
Rebel spat for a Rebel player? What?
he's going for 9 rebels. All right, let's see it.
Is that even active on this patch?
Yeah. It is, isn't it?
Is it? I thought okay,
Been
really
active for a while,
interesting.
I think, hasn't it?
Oh, maybe I must have misunderstood because I know that there was different stretch goals that were made for the PBE patch,
Yeah,
like
there's some
8
new ones.
chrono.
Right, right. But I think 9 Rebel's been around for a little while.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, Ash 2. It's always nice.
Yeah, so how do we best position? There's infiltrators. There's two infiltrator players and mech infiltrator and void brawlers,
Mm.
and there's a rebel player that kind of bunches, and there's a Jin player. This is it's a diverse mix. It's actually very hard. I think I would just
Yeah,
prioritize keeping Zaya safe. How does he use his locket? I guess he just maximizes the shield with the Fiora. That makes sense to me.
yeah. Oh,
Oh, it
well, he
protects the
tried to
dash.
protect, yeah, the blitz target, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, that was huge. That was huge. The extra shield gave just enough time for Ash to get that arrow off. That was very clever by DarkHydra.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to win it with it. It looks like
Wow.
he is. Not
That makes
bad.
such a big difference.
No kidding.
And now he gets
Wow.
top 4 because of that.
And who makes that
Really
adjustment?
well done by
That was
DarkHydra.
that was crazy. A lot of people would have just slammed the locket on the 3-star and just shrugged and been like, "All right, well, at least I'm getting the most benefit from the locket, right?" But Hydra
Yeah.
knowing, calculating, just what he needed to get that CC. That was sick.
And Crvor bows out in 5th with the mech, so, he's had some highs and lows with that composition, but in the end, should make a case for top 3 at the least. DarkHydra, once more, can he make a single-digit comeback as he is playing on fire right now? Really
Right.
well done. Once more with a reposition at the last second.
Hmm. Okay. Moves the Fiora to the front lines, going up
Okay.
against Inay right now.
And that was great because now Fiora will absorb this Jin 4 shot, which it does. Oh my god, DarkHydra with the 5-head galactic brain plays.
That
But is it
Xerath
gonna
is getting
work
a
though?
lot of time.
Duh.
That Xerath had a
Oh, the
lot of
trap
time to attack.
claw.
Yeah.
The trap claw on the Jin being so big. Can the Zaya chew through fast enough?
Oh,
Oh
and
my
he could.
god.
All the Jin needed to do was just shoot this high at once. He didn't do it.
Wow.
Jin,
If
please.
DarkHydra makes this comeback once more, just like getting rewarded with his positioning, his itemization, his last second micro,
I
it'd be
think
so impressive.
he's been blessed by the GSS mainstream view because we've had
That's
what,
right.
like,
That's right.
3 games in a row now where we've watched somebody in 7th, they've come back.
Yeah. Very clever so far. How do you position against Rebels now? It's the most likely player he's gonna face.
That's rough.
Okay, so he keeps Zaya in the corner. Caitlyn, of course, spaced out so she can maximize her DPS. Oh,
Right.
Cassidon's in a good position as well. Does he get the disarm? No,
Oh, he
Cassidon
got
didn't
blown
get the
up
disarm off. Oh, that's such a big deal. Jinx can attack now. Oh,
on
it's
his
over.
X2, but here comes the
GG.
GP again, and that looks pretty over. Oh, Inay goes down. Oh, he managed to take 3rd, I guess.
Not
I'll
bad.
take that.
Honestly, that was a very well earned 3rd place. That
Yeah,
well played, Dark Hydra.
we take those. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Making the,
So
Shredder build go a bit farther than it probably should have. And now we have Rebels versus, I believe it's Void
Void
that,
Brawler. Yep.
yeah,
The
Sphinx is
two
playing.
top compositions, as many people have pegged it in the current metagame. Ooh, I like this double Vel'Koz buy to deny or help reduce the ability for your opponent to get that.
Oh, yeah, it's huge. And where he
Uh,
doesn't have the chance yet of hitting the Lulu too,
mhm,
there's no reason to sell one of those Vel'Koz to pick it up too, because
yeah.
you don't want to give your opponent that chance to get that Vel'Koz 3.
Yeah, he's holding 6 Vel'Koz right now, so the secret number, or the magic number is 4. So if you find 4 Vel'Koz, your opponent can't
Mhm.
ever get it, unless they're playing Nico's help on PBE.
Yep. Now finally Nico's, will create extra ones if you
Ooh.
need it. Oh, goodbye
Oh
Lulu.
no, the shroud positioning did not work out, but his gameplay is fully souped. I mean, that was faster impact plus 2 strikes. That's
Wow.
good enough anyways.
That was super fast, yeah. Okay, so now he sells the Lulu. Aurelion sold 2. Always happy to see that.
Misfortune
MF2.
2. Oh, I like it. Oh, I like this Lulu swap a lot. He recognizes it's unlikely that he's able to get it. This is going to potentially be a game-ending fight if he wins so convincingly.
Well, he just got so much stronger too. Aurelion sold 2, MF2. That was
Right,
a really nice little power boost in that last round. And
right, right.
I don't believe there were any big upgrades for Sphinx there on the other side.
Yeah, and now that his opponent's clumped there, he can go ahead and shroud all of them. Gangplank and Kha'Zix gets caught in it. Vel'Koz doesn't, but now he can give his backline some time.
All right, a little bit of damage, but not enough.
Oh, that
And
should be game. That's huge damage coming in. Agon's going to win the final lobby of day number 1 here in season 2. Well
and
done.
Agon does it. Game number 4, getting the win. And what a way to end it. So that's cool. We saw a nice variety of builds today, I think, as far as what ended up actually winning the lobbies. Very cool.
Yeah, so Rebels took that last game. We saw the
Boom
Jin
was one of
comp
them.
with Space Pirates do well. We saw Mech Infiltrator. I'm missing one. I can't remember. Was it a KO composition that won? Another one?
I believe so. Let's take a look at our scores here. Inay at first in our lobby after day 1. Then it's a 2-way tie at 25 points for Crvor and DarkHydra. Agon close behind. 23, Naturesbf 21, and so on
Wow.
from there. So Sphinx,
All right.
big final 2 games for Sphinx, actually. 2 second places to bring himself up quite a bit in the standings.
Yeah, and remember that these are point standings are going to be rolling week to week. So while players like Natures and Sphinx didn't get top 4 for today, they got a lot of points. So if they have, they have weeks where they're doing a lot better as what most people expect out of them. They have a really good comeback potential. But for players like Sunny and Higa, they're going to have to do a lot better the next appearance here.
Yeah, for sure. And they've got a lot of time to do that. So it's like I said, one bad day does not make bad tournament. So they are still in the running to perform better in the tournament later. But it's cool to see a player like Inay come into Giant Slayer series. He's been such a force on the ladder for so long, such a prominent member of the TFT community, popular streamer, and showing his skill in a tournament scenario now. Very neat to see.
Yeah, Inay has pretty much dominated the set for a while, and then it took a little bit of time, but then like the rise of Polt came up, and then Mismatched Socks eventually took it, and now Kiyun kind of reigns over the ladder. I'm not sure if it's necessarily because Inay decided to take a little bit more of a break. I know people are camping for their spot for the snapshots that are for the later tournaments this month.
True.
So that could probably explain a little bit more of his inactivity, but Inay clearly shows that he's not dulled in his skills at all.
Well, let's ask him because he's on the call with us right now. How's it going, Inay?
Oh, hello. It's going all right.
Cool. Hey, so number 1 at the end of day 1. What's your big takeaway after today's games?
What do you mean takeaway?
I mean, like, what stands out to you in terms of like what builds you saw, maybe something you learned or experienced in your own games? What's the thought that stands out to you the most after playing these 4 games?
DarkHydra is really, really good. That's the only thought I have.
I've
never watched him before, but that guy is actually so good.
Yeah. He was a StarCraft 2 pro, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really follow the EU scene, but yeah, that guy is too good.
Dang. You don't
like
follow
8
it
years
like
ago,
at
but-
all, or you're just saying that you don't really like keep up tabs on them?
I mean, I've like heard of him, but I don't really like watch or like follow it very much. But yeah.
What was it about
better.
his play that impressed you today?
It's hard to explain, but like when you're like high elo and you watch people play, you've watched like so many people before. Like sometimes you just see someone, you're like, wow, this guy's really good. And I don't really say that about like many people, but yeah, that guy's insane.
Wow. So your pro sense was tingling, huh?
Yeah, basically.
I see.
If DarkHydra was a player in North America, would you put him in your top 10?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, all right.
That was fast.
Yeah.
No hesitation. Just immediately, I'd put him in the top 10. Huh.
No, because like I don't like just see someone be like, this guy's insane. Like, I'll just never say that. But that guy's actually
That's true.
insane. Yeah.
That's
wow.
True. I've watched a decent amount of Inay VODs. That's true. Inay, talk to me a little bit about how you're approaching competitive right now during this time. A lot of people, they're like grinding and sweating a lot. Some people are like prepping for PBE. What have you been up to lately?
I just play Final Fantasy.
Nice.
I don't really
Remake?
care.
Which
I don't
one?
wanna play
Remake,
ladder.
MMO? Which?
What?
It said which one? Remake, MMO?
14 MMO.
Oh, okay. MMO.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I don't enjoy playing ladder, and I'm not gonna like go hard for competitive, the game that I don't really want to play ladder for. So yeah. Like,
Have you been playing the PBE at all?
I played it like 3 games with viewers, but like not really.
All right. Any thoughts about the mid-set patch coming in then?
I don't. I think it's pretty unbalanced, and I think there will be a lot of problems when it comes out.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll patch it and fix it eventually.
Especially
over time.
Urgot and Cassiopeia seem like very dangerous champion design.
What do you mean you don't like watching an Urgot 1 completely eat a Poppy 3 with perfect items? I love
Urgot
that.
eats 999 mech.
Yeah.
And I think Cassiopeia is a cool mechanic, but I think it will be extremely hard to balance because she like breaks shields or something, right?
She just kind of poisons people and reduces the effectiveness of shields, if I remember correctly.
I think that's gonna be really hard to balance, and I don't know if it's good for the game. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Is there anything that you like about the mid-set expansion?
I mean, it's like fresh stuff, right? So that's good.
Sure enough. All right. Well, going forward in Giant Slayer series, what do you think is going to be sort of like the main thing to keep in mind as you play like week to week? Are you going to be studying your opponents a lot? Are you going to be thinking more about like what your own strategy coming into it is? Like, what's your kind of general approach?
I don't really have one. I mean, I don't even watch this game.
Well, there you go. That's an approach.
Yeah.
You approach it like Big Lebowski, like Inay abides, basically.
Yeah, sure.
There you go. That arena really brought the room together. You haven't seen Big Lebowski, have you?
What?
Never mind.
Big Lebowski came out probably before Inay was born, though.
Yeah, I'm 13.
It's not that old.
I was born in 2007.
Well, never mind then. Any closing thoughts, Frodan? I'm done.
Thanks for hosting.
Inay, is there any final words you'd like to give? Any shout outs, thank yous, or fighting words?
Just thanks for hosting this tournament. It's lit, and it's really good that you guys are hosting tournaments because tournaments are like 20 times worse run, and yeah, you guys are actually do a really good job. So I'm really happy that I'm able to like play the game and not have to play ladder. So yeah, keep up good work.
Props to Giant Slayer series for putting on the event for sure.
Yeah, but...
All right, thanks, Inay.
Yeah,
enjoy Final Fantasy. We'll see you next time.
That's right, man. Good luck on your raid.
All right. Well, that was Inay, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you think Brian's gonna invite him to Set 4 Invitational?
I'd like to be there. I don't know.
Right.
Let's take a look at our schedule going forward. Well, we saw our match today. Tomorrow, Gunmei, Dasik, Levdi, Trotsky. You need Crowan, Kiting is hard, Q, and Tien. That is a stacked lobby, and it's going to be pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw a lot of Gunmei and Tien comments in the chat. I know Crowan, he's one of the most consistent tournament players. You know, a lot of times just like, you know, maybe Crowan's not dominating any tournaments, but he's also rarely bombing out hard. He's usually advancing to the finals at least.
Yeah, so he usually sneaks in the top 8 every time, you know?
And it's like, which version of Kiting will show up? The one that, you know, was dominating ladder and TSM picked up, or the one that kind of tilts himself off the face of the planet? So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. You've got other players like Gunmei, who's kind of one of the preeminent Void players out there, and really loves Space Jam as well. So kind of has always kind of favored some of the less played comps, but has been really good at sort of innovating and being good at those. So it'll be cool to get a chance to see Gunmei get his hands on those. For the last couple weeks, things like Void Brawler are available before the mid-set patch comes in. So I think a lot to look forward to for tomorrow.
Definitely. I'm going to keep playing some more games. I've, you know, obviously been a little bit busy. Though, and I have been a little bit busy, but looking forward to more TFT.
Yeah, that's right. All right, guys. Thanks for watching today. And a big thank you, of course, as well to juke.gg for sponsoring Giant Slayer series. Go to juke.gg to find all of the esports you could ever hope for and more. Discover new games, watch VODs, find standings. And if you type !GSS in chat, you can get a landing page that lets you watch from every player's POV. So that's really cool, too. But that's going to about do it for Frodan and I here from Giant Slayer series. Day number 1. It's a new season. I'm so psyched to be back doing this again. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific for another set of games, and it's going to be great.